much.
I'm still black and proud.
Yeah. Hola. The bread is 16 rand. Hola.
Yeah, it's tough, eh? Lord Jabakwe.
Inda Azi, how are you?
I know, for and then the bedina. Okay, David.
Oh, Munamulle.
Eh?
Munamulle is still running away.
Eh? How?
Hey, the Tom Cop. Tom Cops. Languta the Tom Cop. Tom Cops. Tom Cops. Hey, Tom Cops. Tom Cops.
Nale buga gaina.
Aro kumalzera mutile.
Oh, generally
Ah, no, chapo.
Kirusha pila litwadina. wena.
Conversation, you want to scream. What is wrong with you?
I'm like you. I'm starting to become like you that was screaming when I was busy talking to Lisejo.
Thank you,
I'm
thank
talking
you,
to Honourable
thank you.
Member Malisera and
Thank you.
attempting to ascertain as to why he's no longer coming to me.
Good morning,
I don't
comrades.
think it's your business.
Can you all remain standing for a moment of silent prayer and meditation? Thank you. We may be seated. Let me take this opportunity to welcome our Honourable Premier, members of the Executive Council, the Chief Whip of the Majority Party, leaders of political parties, members of the Provincial Legislature, ladies and gentlemen, the people of Gauteng. The only apology that we have received is that of Honourable Sophie, who will join the meeting late as he is attending to an urgent business. But he will soon join us as soon as he's done. I want to check, is there a member who wants to do an announcement? Including those members that are...
Yes.
Yeah, even if you are connected virtually, just raise your hand. I will see your hand. Is Honourable...
It's Honourable Stangano, Speaker.
Okay, you're allowed.
Thank you, Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the Economic Freedom Fighter Student Command Team for its decisive victory in the past SRC elections. They've managed to win the following campuses on NISA, which is Tshwane, Johannesburg, Midlands, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and the Eastern Cape, as well as national. We say halala to EFF Student Command, halala.
Allah.
Okay. Honourable Masimula. Honourable Masimula.
Halala, EFF.
Okay, we lost Honourable Masimula. Any other member in the House? Okay, thank you. The announcement from our side. 1, we will request that only members who are speaking will switch on their videos. Maybe I should actually direct Honourable Bloom just to switch off. It does look like your gadget is now in order, because I know that in the past it has been very difficult. And the second announcement is that the Office of the Integrity Commissioner has distributed the declaration of interest forms to all members, and the deadline for submission is the 23rd of March. Members are encouraged to seek one-on-one support from the Office of the IC in relation to the completion of forms if there's a challenge. Those are the only two announcements that we have. In terms of Rule 79, subsection 1, MEC statements, we don't have any. In terms of Rule 81, subsection 1, member statement, Honourable Shackleton.
Madam Speaker, the criminal gang Boko Haram is a persistent scourge to the people of Mamelodi. The gang is known for hijacking vehicles and changing their VIN numbers, and for forcing spaza shop and business owners to pay them bribes just to be allowed to continue to operate. They are known for unlawfully evicting people from hostels and rooms and then charging rent to enrich themselves. Members of the gang have taken over projects in Mamelodi, Pretoria West and Rosalind. The price for not paying bribe money is death. Numerous residents have approached the DA, trusting them at risk to their own lives, to provide information as to the workings of Boko Haram. The names of the leaders of this gang are common knowledge in Mamelodi. It is even known where to find these people when they are in Mamelodi. Residents allege that there are SAPS members in both the Mamelodi West and East police stations who do the bidding of this criminal organization. People have come forward saying that Boko Haram members openly carry firearms at a tavern next to a police station in Mamelodi. These allegations must be investigated with vigor and with urgency. The people of Gauteng deserve an honest and professional police service that they can trust. I will not rest in my pursuit to protect the people of Mamelodi, even if it costs me my life. This is the DA's commitment to the people of Gauteng. We serve a cause far greater than mere politics. We are on a mission to save the people of South Africa. And we are on this mission to serve the people of Gauteng, because it is evident that under the watch of Premier Makhura and the ANC, residents will continue to suffer because they are not fit to govern. The Gauteng NEC for Community Safety, the Provincial Police Commissioner and the District Police Commissioner must bring all reasonable force to bear to keep the children, the mothers, the brothers, the sisters and the fathers of Mamelodi safe. The current situation cannot be allowed to continue. Not now, not ever. I thank you. Amandla, we'll go 100%. Agreed, MEC.
We have also received a motion without notice on the Political Office Bearers Pension Fund in terms of Rule 117, read with Rule 121. Honourable Makakula.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I, Thokozile Makakula, hereby tables the following motion in terms of Rule 121, read together with Rule 117 as follows. Noting that when the rules of the Political Office Bearers Pension Fund requires that after a general election, members of the legislature must elect one member as a trustee and one member as an alternate member to serve on the board of trustees of the fund. I therefore nominate Honourable NLH Mirwe as trustee and further nominate Honourable M. Kumalo as alternate member. I so move, Mrs. Thank you.
Okay. Any seconder to the motion? Honourable Diale.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I, Honourable Kidiboni Diale, hereby second the motion.
Motion seconded. Thank you very much. I now put a question. All those in favour say yes.
Honourable Speaker, there's a problem.
All those not in favour say no.
No.
The yes have it. The motion is adopted by the House. Honourable Makhura, I don't know what is the problem.
Honourable Speaker, thank you very much. There's a problem, especially for our side who are following the proceedings of the sitting virtually. There's member Yano Engelberg, I don't know how to pronounce the surname. He's violating the virtual rules. If you look at the profile picture that he
Can I stop you, Honourable? Can I stop you, Honourable Makhura? Honourable Makhura?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Yes, we are about to pronounce that. Let us not disturb the proceedings. Honourable Engelbrecht, can you switch off your video or that, because that is not what you were given by the legislature. Thank you. I want to actually read the rules pertaining to the sitting for today. The Rule 80 sub 2, read with Section 117 of the Constitution in terms of the freedom of the speech. In accordance with that rule, members must be allowed to speak and debate freely in the House and its committees as and when recognized by the presiding officer in line with the orders of the day and the speaking list. So if you are not recognized, please don't even try. The Constitution further gives members freedom of speech in the legislature subject to its rules and orders. Both principles, freedom of speech and the standing rules, are fundamental in ensuring orderly debate and effective conduct of parliamentary business. The standing rules relating to order and debate are aimed not at limiting freedom of speech, but at guiding debate in the context of freedom of speech so as to allow reasonable and open consideration of controversial issues. The rules also seek to promote the responsible exercise of the privilege of freedom of speech, and furthermore, procedures imposed by the rules are designed to allow this to be done in an orderly fashion. Rule 77, subsection 5, in terms of speeches and open debates, provides that at the end of each speech, according to the speaking list, any member, including members who have already spoken in the debate, may indicate to the presiding officer that he or she wishes to ask a question or make a remark directly related to the speech. Here, the member may indicate to the presiding officer that he or she wishes to ask a question or make a remark. Members may not interrupt during the speech to ask a question or make a remark. You wait for a person to speak, then you raise your hand. And Rule 77, subsection 8, provides that the presiding officer may use her discretion to call on any member to speak during this particular time. Rule 83, subsection 2, provides that a member who wishes to speak in a debate but is not on the speaking list must indicate his or her wish to the presiding officer by show of a hand. This rule is only applicable if the party to whom the member belongs to has free time available. If there is no free time, the member will not be able to rise under this particular rule. Rule 88, in terms of interruption, provides that members may interrupt a member who is speaking in a debate only to raise a point of order, or to raise a matter of privilege, or to call attention to the presence of an unauthorized person. I hope this explanation will assist members in correctly applying the rules during the debate of the House. All guests are welcome to join virtually. Guests are further urged not to participate in the proceedings of the House. Only members of the legislature are allowed to participate. In terms of Section 11 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act, it is an offence to create or take part in any disturbance of the House. Any person who does so may be arrested or be removed from the virtual link. Can I therefore call the Secretary to read the first order?
Debate on the previous State of the Province address.
Honourable Msimanga.
Madam Speaker, members of the Provincial Legislature, members of the public who are viewing at us through different platforms, I bid you a good morning. In 2014, I walked into these chambers and I was sworn in for the first time as a member of the legislature. I remember watching and listening to all the speeches, including that of the newly elected Premier of a vibrant, much expectant province of Gauteng, David Makhura. Premier Makhura was exalted as the next best thing to happen to Gauteng. Dubbed David the Giant Slayer, Premier Makhura had all of us excited and hopeful for a better Gauteng, filled with opportunities for all, safe for all, corruption-free, and service delivery driven. The lyrics of Michael Jackson's song, Gone Too Soon, better explain this phenomenon. In the song he writes, and I quote, "Like a comet blazing across the evening sky, gone too soon. Like a castle built upon a sandy beach, gone too soon. Born to amuse, to inspire, to delight, here one day, gone one night, like a sunset dying with the rising of the moon, gone too soon," close quote. In the conclusion of his 2021 State of the Province address, the Premier says, and I quote, "In the eyes of our people, the residents of Gauteng, clean government Clean governance means an ethical state geared to meet their social needs as well as meet their economic and political needs by empowering citizens to shape their own destiny. Close quote. We'll come back to that in a moment. He further admits that the trust that the ANC-led government has been enjoying has now eroded, and that they have undermined that very trust given to them by the people of Gauteng. He admits that they have betrayed the trust of the people. The once dubbed giant slayer now finds himself choked by the very same thing that he promised to begin cleaning up when he took office. Madam Speaker, there's something very worrying about the posture that the Premier has taken during this year's SOPA. It is as if corruption only landed on our shores when, from Wuhan last year, around the time when the pandemic hit us. When the hard lockdown was announced by the President nearly a year ago in a bid to curb and spread of the pandemic, he announced various interventions that will be put in place to assist in procuring of goods and services that will be needed during the pandemic. And as this was announced, he also said that he did not want to have to institute any commission of inquiry into how these goods and services and money set aside was spent, because there have been allegations of corruption. His words were hardly cold when it matched that in Gauteng, the procurement of PPE was done improperly and that there was possible corruption involved. This led to the SIU being asked to investigate, and Premier then subsequently firing Bandile Masuku as the MEC of Health. Like I said earlier on, corruption did not arrive on our shores when COVID-19 did. Corruption has always been here, a trademark of an ANC-led government. We only need to look at what is happening at the Zondo Commission to know that this is true. We agree and admit that in 2020, certainly this has not been a usual year as COVID-19 pandemic reached our shores. We agree and admit that this was a good idea to support a decision to introduce the initial hard lockdown. This with a solemn aim of curbing the spread of the virus and to give officials enough time to prepare our hospitals for the influx of patients who would contract the deadly virus. I remember giving the Premier a call and saying, Premier, I want to work with you on this one. Before there was even the meetings of leaders within the province of Gauteng, I initiated a call and said to the Premier, we don't want to politicize this thing. We want to have a meeting around the table and assist you in driving a message that will save the millions of lives of our people. And I must commend the Premier that that was something that was taken in a good spirit. The meeting were established. We were able to meet almost on a weekly basis to then deal with the issues and get updates of what was happening, until there were scandals that started hitting us. And then the meetings started becoming sporadic in their happenings. And then there were issues about what you get fed and what you don't get fed. And then there were gagging and withholding of information that was coming from a government. That's what eroded trust, Premier. In our support and agreeing with government, we did not have in mind that one day we will be talking about the looting that was extraordinary, like the virus itself. We did not have in mind that the vultures will descend to feast. We did not think that the broken system that had already existed will be further exploited by officials and politically connected. This at the expense of the masses of our people. Premier, you speak about the pain that the people are feeling. I can tell you about the pain of the doctors and nurses that have lost their lives because they were given inferior PPE. I can talk about the pain and the suffering of the people that have lost their loved ones because the inflated prices was the order of the day here in Gauteng. I can talk of the pain that parents have lost their loved ones. Young ones have lost their parents and had to bury them because of an uncaring government here in Gauteng. That is what you must have admitted, Premier, that you are responsible for failing the people of Gauteng. You are responsible for the deaths that have occurred in the hospitals of our front health workers, the security personnel, the policemen and women who were begging for government to ensure that the PPE is procured in the right quantities, on time, and also of the right quality. What did we deal with? I went with some of the members here to Nazareth, we were sitting and looking at boxes. Bishop, you would remember. We were sitting and looking at boxes that had to be returned because that was inferior quality products that had been procured there. I remember going to Steve Biko Hospital. Same problem persisted there. When we raised this, this was racialized. We were told, this was racialized, and we were told that, we don't want black companies to excel. When there's black companies that excel, then we want to bring issues of corruption. What we say, this is not about black or white. This is about saving lives. This is about providing goods and services that are of good quality that will be able to save lives. What did our government do? Absolutely nothing. And I repeat, gone too soon. The Premier that had promised us that he will be able to take a firmer hand and ensure that all that has been done wrong will be brought to book. That, sir, was gone too soon. We move on, sir. You emphasize on the pain and suffering brought upon by the pandemic, but you completely did not acknowledge the suffering that has been caused by the government's own security forces, making people to frog jump from one area to another. You failed to acknowledge that it is the same government that failed to even take action when somebody was shot right here in Alexander. You were nowhere to be seen, Premier. I take it at some point you were sick yourself. But I was expecting that somebody who was acting on your behalf would have been there to be the first and say, this should not happen under the name of our government. But it was all just gone too soon as we experienced more and more of obfuscation that was taking place, as we experienced more and more of excuses that had been given and that has been made. The Premier further goes on to make a promise that we will ensure that 67% of the provincial population will be vaccinated within this year. In total, this is actually a pie in the sky. It cannot be, Premier, that you only have 2 centers where vaccination is supposed to be taking place. And then you expect that you will be able to meet the numbers. Steve Biko is still struggling with the legacy of the lack of maintenance, the lack of planning, the lack of infrastructure integration or IT infrastructure integration in the hospital itself. Yet, you are saying that we will be able to meet the 67% mark of ensuring that we're able to then give vaccination to the people of Gauteng. These 2 hospitals will not suffice when we are seriously considering doing this. I'm saying to you, one of the things that we want to put to you, sir, is ensuring that you have more centers where vaccine will be able to be rolled out, because that will assist in eliminating and alleviating queues, long queues in hospitals. That will ensure that we have a speedier, vaccination and releasing of our health workers back into where they need to be in order for them to be able to give the service that they're supposed to be giving. Premier, I want to also say to you that one of the things that you were bragging about was the Nazareth Field Hospital. I walked in there and saw nothing but Bretlow's beds that were there. These were beds that were supposed to have been given to people that are supposed to be on oxygen and so on and so forth. When we went there the first time, there was not even a single pipe laid to ensure that oxygen is actually there. But this was said by you to be, the intervention that we are putting in place. In our meetings, you even went as far as to say that you are in contact with the military, that in Ekurhuleni there will be the military intervention in terms of ensuring that we will also have a field hospital. When we got into the second wave of COVID, we found you wanting. We found you asking for questions or looking for answers all over. When we were asking why our hospitals now overfilled, as you said, you are taking care of it. Why our hospitals overfilled? Why are people sleeping on the pavements in tents in Steve Biko Hospital, in Krisani Baragwanath, and so others? We asked Premier, what have you done? We know that we are sitting in a time where the pandemic has caused so much headache. But your government has exacerbated the situation, and you need to own up to that. The Premier, you go on and you speak about good governance. And I want to say as well, colleagues, good governance gone too soon. The fact that the Premier spoke about improving governance with ethics, integrity and accountability across the province is simply an insult on Gauteng residents, as his own government has not been a good shining example of this. The question is, where was that approach when he encouraged an illegal dissolution of the Tshwane Municipal Council last year that compromised the spirit of cooperative governance and cost taxpayers a lot of money that now have to be paid? Further to this, Premier Makhura tried to paint a positive image of the Vaal tourism industry that is built on the Vaal River and include water sports and waterfront properties as part of the investment strategy that needs to be going into this particular area. Yet we know that the river is getting more and more polluted by the day, making that dream of fully functional tourism industry in the area more and more of a pipe dream than a reality. In addition to this, the Vaal River Special Economic Zone is a laughable matter, Premier. No one will want to invest in a municipality where no service delivery is the order of the day and where the mayoral vacancy has been vacant for 6 weeks. While MEC of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs, Lebogang Maile, is still waiting for the municipality to respond to his department's report, despite having already granted 3 extensions. When and how long do we have to wait? Mfuleni municipality is in shambles, and before we can even begin thinking about introducing any tourism activity in the Vaal area, Mfuleni municipalities must be fixed and be fixed very, very fast. That they are able and capable to then ensure that ESCOM is able to be paid on time, that they don't have to have municipal vehicles taken away by the sheriff. The embarrassment that the government has suffered. Yet the Premier stands and tells us that they have pumped so much money in Mfuleni. Yet we haven't seen any improvement, an ounce of improvement that has been taking place in that particular municipality. If you don't believe me, you can go and look at the Auditor General's report to confirm what I'm saying to you right now. It goes even further, that the South African Human Rights Commission reported, the report concluded that the sewer spillage in the Vaal River system is now an abuse of human rights. This adds to the indictment of Premier Makhura's administrative failures. Premier goes on to talk about land invasion. Premier, I see you are taking notes. I want you to take note of the following. Westford, Atteridgeville, Tsunami area, Itireleng, Olivenwood Bosch Extension 17, Ekangala, Epupseni, and Marikana, Pinarsport, Skirlek, Hercules, Gomorrah, Soshanguve, Block K, Soshanguve Block S, Soshanguve Block G, Rooiberg, Kleprefir Oog, Pumlamkasha in Univille, Enadale, Kokotela Loli, Nana Farm, Extension 4, Lenasia South, Extension 13, Lenasia, Deland area, extension 14 as well, and then mountain in region G of Orange Farm. These are pieces of land, Premier, that are owned by your government. These are pieces of government. These are pieces of government property that are owned by this province. That when we started writing to the provincial government, even before MEC Maile's time, when we wrote to MEC Uhuru and before MEC Uhuru to MEC Mashatile, when we said these pieces of land are being invaded and you need to do something to ensure that you're able to protect them, and not only protect them, but ensure that you speed the planning and the delivery of services on those pieces of land and award them to the people. And the people have now decided that enough is enough, they're not going to wait anymore. Yet, instead of admitting that there's a problem that your government should be responding to, you then obfuscate again, and then you want to make this a municipal issue and a political issue and say parties that are in coalition are the responsible parties in this. I can show you, Premier, emails. I can show you emails where we've written to the MECs who have failed to respond. In fact, the last response that was received was when they were saying that the contract of the Red Ends had actually come to an end. They don't even have any budget to ensure that land invasion is avoided going forward. This has been the response of your government. And I want to put it to you, sir, that you are responsible for the failing in the municipalities. When municipalities are not able to meet their financial obligation, you should take responsibility for that. Because what is happening to this infrastructure is that you have people that invade land, then the next day they connect electricity illegally, they connect to the sewer system illegally, they connect to the freshwater system illegally, and municipalities is then left with the cost of taking care of this. While your government is busy pointing fingers, the municipalities are struggling out there. You are responsible for the financial cost thereof, sir. I want to then put it to you. I want to put it to you. I want to put it to you, sir, that you further talk about the special economic zones. And I'm not going to talk about some of the things that you try to really claim victory for. But I want to talk to you about the fact that you have more than half of the youth of this province being unemployed. More than half of the youth of this province being unemployed. In your office, you are sitting with a program. In your office, you are sitting with a program that is called the SOPA 1 million, that is supposed to have benefited the millions of our young people. Yet you are not even able to meet half of that commitment. And when you ask, the excuse that is given is that we are going through COVID. But if you go and look at the years even prior to that, you realize that this has been consistently failing. And this cannot continue to happen in a province where poverty is becoming the order of the day for so many people, when jobs are being lost on a daily basis, when your government is dilly-dallying around whether they want to continue on lockdown, whether they want to then bring lockdown down, whether they want to have the sale of alcohol continuing, whether they don't want to have the sale of alcohol continuing. Your government has failed the people of Gauteng. While we still at it, Premier, I should be asking you this question. When we know that COVID-19 pandemic has negatively impacted business, and especially small businesses, why is the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller still not spent the 250 million rand that was allocated as part of the COVID-19 relief for businesses? You cannot talk left and walk right, Premier. You cannot talk about feeling the pain of those that are now finding themselves jobless, businesses that are closing down and are most probably are going to permanently close down. Yet your own government that has the resources has failed to spend those resources on uplifting and making sure that they cushion the blow that some of these people are feeling. Once again, Premier Makhura brought up, as I continue, the lifestyle audits issue. I put it to you, Premier, that I remember in the previous term when you're talking about the reports, the investigative reports that were sitting on your table, that you were going to make public, that you were going to act on. We're still waiting. We're still waiting. And I'm sure you were called to Alexander to say you cannot continue to then deal with these issues. These are issues that you have to step down or else they will limit your political career. But unfortunately, your political career is already on the rocks right now. The same people that were threatening you are the same people right now that are behind the ousting of you, Premier. I remember there used to be a lady who used to sit here, Makhura, who used to say, and I quote, "You must not be worried about us. You must be worried about those that are sitting behind you." And those are things that you now need to be careful of. I want to say, I see I've touched people on their studios, but it's fine. I have a limited time to speak, so you can howl all you want, but the truth will remain the truth. Let me continue to say that, Premier, those, and you said it in your own words. In your own words, you said there are those that want to see you out because of internal political battles. And these are some of the people that you should have acted on and you failed to act. Now they are back. The chickens are coming home to roost. And one of them is making noise here. The one who has aspiration of becoming the next premier is making noise. The one that has aspiration of becoming the next premier is making noise. But it's fine. We'll deal with it when the time comes. Let me also say, Premier, that you also speak of the lifestyle audits, and you have been promising the lifestyle audits from the last term, but you failed to even implement this. In fact, it had to take COVID. It had to take COVID for you to take some action, and you are not taking action because of your own willing.
You were taking action because the president has actually said that something had to be done. And then he said, okay, Mr. President, we'll also go into that line. You should have implemented this a long time ago. You failed to do it. I said to you, I challenge you and me to be the first to do it. Still today, I still say, you and me should be the first to do it. Let's not wait for the president to do something. Let us do it right now. But Premier, you also go further. I said to the people in the very house here, I said that the ANC members marching to the ANC minister, to ask the ANC minister, to ask the ANC president to reverse the decision that was taken by the ANC on an illegal and unwanted and unjust system of the ANC, to remove it and consider removing it. That is the e-tolls. They said, no, the e-tolls don't have any future here in Gauteng. The Premier for 3 years straight said the e-tolls have no future in Gauteng. Yet, 2 weeks ago, in the government gazette, there is new tariffs that has been already proclaimed, which then talks to the e-tolls, that we are still supposed to be paying for e-tolls. Premier, what happened to the money that you committed to say that we will be paying for the e-tolls? What happened to you saying that the e-tolls don't have a future here in Gauteng? In fact, you didn't even breathe one breath or spend one breath talking about the e-tolls, because you know you lied to the people of Gauteng. You're talking about the erosion of trust. This is exactly it, the erosion of trust that we're talking about. Yes. Let me say to you, the hopes and dreams are gone too soon. It would seem like the aspiration and plans of this government are gone too soon. Well laid out plans are never followed through. This is the denial that cadres deployment in the departments like infrastructure development and property management is the reason why our infrastructure project, which is another key driver of job creation, is not functioning properly. It is high time that Premier Makhura ensure that there is consequence management thereof. There will be, I must say that there will be no economic growth while we have what is happening, continuously happening here, Madam Speaker. As the former President Thabo Mbeki has said, the biggest indictment of the ANC is its continuous ability to lie and not correct its own lies. This is in any way very much evident in what is happening right now. I see the Premier wannabe is continuously making noise, but he can continue to make all the noise that he wants here. The fact is that I will have my time, and I can pause while you hold. I can pause while you hold, and I will continue to have my time.
Honourable Maile, thank you. Honourable members, thank you. Thank you. Honourable members, please. Thank you.
Just listen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. While the other one is the Premier is busy making noise here. Twan is fixing the 4 billion rand mess that he and his administration have left there. We are dealing with the 4 billion rand that in a matter of a year is now going to be rectified, and we will rectify it. But I want to say, in closing, Madam Speaker, that the dream that the people of Gauteng had, the aspiration that the people of Gauteng had, and the trust that the people of Gauteng had, has been eroded. And the Premier is correct in saying that the people have lost trust in you. That goes to show, sir, that you are not, and your cabinet are not fit to govern this province of us. Thank you very much.
DA in Tshwane and all other municipalities. We have lost the trust in the DA in Tshwane.
Hey, shut up. Shut up.
Honourable Khumalo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and Deputy Speaker, Honourable Premier, members of the Executive Council, honourable members of the Provincial Legislature, comrades, the people of Gauteng. Indeed, Member Msimang, looking at you and your past photos, I am convinced that you and Michael Jackson were the same WhatsApp group. And your Michael Jackson in you is gone too soon. Premier, in the State of the Province address, you have shown that even in the most of trying times, the people of Gauteng, especially our heroes and heroines in police stations, hospital, and in particular health workers, remain resilient. These are the patriots who chose to give their lives in service of the people. Our planning in pursuance of the GGT 2030 must be such that we are able to withstand future shock, as was the case with COVID-19. Our experience of using data-driven solutions to tackle COVID-19 must be institutionalized within the Gauteng City region. Our task to forge ahead with building a capable state, yet developmental in its posture, as Peter Evans in his book said, Embedded Autonomy, States and Industrial Revolution, notes how a bureaucracy immense in a philosophy of make the quest for health and money and obsession are at the center of what is termed a predatory state. These are the people within our system whose sole intent is to plunder, in our case, even when the life of our people is at stake. Comrade Premier, we have the capacity to act, but we must strengthen our resolve to put the system to detect and quickly purge such element from within our state. Let me take this moment to welcome the commitment you've made in this House to pass the Township Development Bill. The bill will give needed economic impetus to the majority of our people in township and help in reviewing the bylaws which impedes township business while making requisite support easily accessible by SMMEs. We are calling on all of us in this House to utilize our parliamentary constituency office to popularize and consult our communities. The visionary GGT 2030, which places catalytic infrastructure at the center of growing the economy, is paying dividends in terms of crowding in of both international and local investment. We must use this with the planned Township Economic Development Act to incubate companies by black graduate, ordinary people in the township, including young people. Comrade Premier, you must be deliberate to create this class of patriotic black industrialists. The current scrambling for a vaccine should be evidence enough in this regard. Madam Speaker, one of the fundamentals for the recovery of the Gauteng economy will be the role women and youth must play in reshaping it. Hence, we would like to lobby yourself, Comrade Premier, to ensure that we allocate 40% quota on the procurement that will be done by the Department to Women and Youth SMMEs in our township. To this end, we welcome the allocation of 1.7 billion in building the Tshwane Automotive Special Economic Zone infrastructure by local SMMEs. Furthermore, we welcome the non-financial and financial support to 262 SMMEs, grades 1 to 7 by Tshwane Automotive Economic Zone. The proposed 531 million allocation to township economy will go a long way to address the high unemployment rate recently reported, particularly among young people. The establishment of the Gauteng Transport Authority must, among others, address the cost and reliability of transport within the province. It will be instructive to convene a transport economy summit to help all players, especially black transport operators, to appreciate the significance of this sector in the whole value chain of building the Gauteng economy. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, the railway infrastructure in Gauteng must be protected, as it will help ease road infrastructure maintenance, but also offer a cost-effective way of moving finished goods from Gauteng to all ports in the country. We want to reaffirm our position to e-tolls in our province and call on you, Comrade Premier, to ensure a speedy implementation of this resolution. Let me read it again. We want to reaffirm our position to e-tolls in our province and call you, Comrade Premier, to ensure a speedy implementation of this resolution. Crime has turned our cities, communities, and home into prisons. Criminals have declared war on our citizens. Hence, we welcome the Gauteng policing plan. The pervasiveness of the lawlessness will erode the social capital which should hold our society together. Madam Speaker, we must also frown upon wastages of resources through pillaging, irregular and unfruitful expenditure. We, however, welcome the continuous issuing of PPEs to health workers to enable them to discharge their duties in servicing the citizens of Gauteng. We would like to commend your leadership and that of your executive to agree to a lifestyle audit. We therefore call on all of us as public representatives to do likewise. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, the ANC caucus in our province, Comrade Premier, is fully behind you and the Executive Council in our quest to build a developmental but honest and ethical state. The ANC further implores all of us as Premier, MECs, mayors and chief whips to ensure that we put systems in place that will detect early and deal decisively with mismanagement of resources. I thank you.
Thank you. Minister, we are donating a 2 minutes to you. Very good.
Can we allow Honourable Mukwebo, who's going to be connected virtually? Honourable Ghana, please.
Let's have a corona.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Honourable Speaker, we rise today to debate the state of the province address after the Gauteng government took granted the lives of black people yet again, this time during the pandemic, which caused the havoc only to us in Gauteng, but in the world. Premier, we waited for your announcement and submit your letter to step aside as required by your party to allow investigation into corruption to be carried out because it is clear that you are no longer in charge. Your office is implicated in PPE scandals, and by extension, as the Premier, you are equally guilty of corruption for failure to exercise oversight of your own office. Your ANC-led administration is riddled with corruption. Your leader of government business became so shocked when it was revealed that more than 430 million were spent within 3 months in his department. Section 125, subsection 1 of the Constitution says that the executive authority of the province is vested in the Premier of that province. Since you are well read of the works of Haruki Murakami, the Japanese writer, may I remind you of the dangers of getting too embroiled in the act of embracing the art of defense mechanism. In your speech, you were just being predictable and desperate. You specifically chose to quote from a book, Kafka on the Shore, which is basically a fiction-style novel on conflict and defense mechanism. Let me help you and remind you that in simple terms, defense mechanisms are nothing but a ways of dealing with a pain or something shameful. The people of Gauteng know this, that your government and its approach to economic emancipation is nothing short of shameful. The EFF commends healthcare and essential workers that selflessly fought to save millions of lives across the province. It is very painful for us to think of many brave healthcare workers who lost their lives as a result of incompetent and corrupt ANC-led government. Makhura, nowhere in your speech did you mention that Gauteng has the second highest number of healthcare workers who lost their lives. The healthcare fraternity lost expertise and resources. Most importantly, the families have lost their breadwinners and parents. In April 2020, the Gauteng Provincial Treasury allocated 2.1 billion to adjusted budget to the Gauteng Provincial Government in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. When the adjusted budget was allocated, Gauteng Department of Health was allocated 1.9 billion. And we can assure the people of Gauteng that the bulk of that money went to corruption. To attest to this, 588 million was allocated to refurbishment and renovation of Anglo-Ashanti Hospital in West Rand. To date, the hospital is still not functional and is becoming a white elephant. 588 million subsequently vanished. The Department of Health clearly gave business to their friends and families, as the EFF were found that many of their suppliers were not qualified to supply PPEs. How to justify this, Premier? A scholar transport company, a catering company. The people who knows nothing about that service which they were supposed to render for Department of Health. This is the mess which is caused by your department, by your own government of the ANC in this province of Gauteng. Premier, you have misled the people of Gauteng into believing that Bandile Masuku was completely removed from Gauteng Provincial Legislature. We as the EFF can assure the people of Gauteng that Bandile Masuku was only removed as the MEC of Health, but has been kept as a member of Gauteng Provincial Legislature. We demand the removal of Bandile Masuku in the Provincial Legislature, as in now and today, despite undisputed evidence that there was a massive corruption in the purchase of PPEs. There is not single public official who have been arrested and convicted by Provincial Director of Public Prosecution, whom we were told are the most competent of all. As the EFF, we stand with the notion that the government must have its own state capacity and abolish the corrupt tender system. This will lead to a clean and corrupt-free government. Premier, let me tell you, 500,000 jobs have been lost in this province. 42% of small business were forced to close with no prospect of ever opening. Yet you are excited about Ford investment, knowing very well that there is a continuous scramble for Africa by colonial powers. I can assure you now that your government has no clear plans and systems in place to prevent exploitation. I can tell you again, Premier, over 3 million youth in this province are looking for permanent jobs, which your government can't even give them. It is reckless of you to speak of Gauteng as economic hub of this country. Yet we do not have expanded productive economic sector which produces goods and products of domestic and global consumption. Your investment of Ford is misleading as it does not speak to producing new goods. It is only assembly points of parts that are imported from Europe. How exactly will one, especially automotive zone, be different than assembly point? You fail to realize that in most instances, these industries are refusing to localize the local components that are supposed to create necessary jobs that are needed. We need to start to manufacture our own. As the EFF, we have since 2014 advocated for massive protected industrial development to create millions sustainable jobs, not these part-time jobs that your Ford is going to create in this province. The township economy that you are talking about is just staggering, Premier. This can be seen in the partnership between Gauteng Enterprise Propeller and Gauteng government working together with Pick and Pay, where township spaza shop and black businesses are trapped into debts by white monopoly capital. It is happening now, I can tell you, in Kagiso. It's happening in Tembisa. I marched with these people, all of them who are in these businesses, marching to the head office of Pick and Pay here in Gauteng. They are complaining our properties are going to be taken by the lawyers, are going to be taken by people you yourself, you introduce our people in. You don't care for a black person. You are selling us, we can see it by your own government here in this province. Premier, you are in deep corruption. The infrastructure department under your administration built my way primary school on wetland. There's no accountability or action taken against the head of infrastructure, spending 82 million. The MEC of infrastructure still cruising nicely in this province like nothing has been happening. You are not saying anything because you are part and parcel of this corruption which is happening in this province of Gauteng. When it comes to Gauteng, let me tell you, the cost of using it remains high. Majority of our people cannot afford to use this Gauteng because of its fare and it's not integrated into a transport system. Be a proper leader. Go and speak to your national government to open the train services which are closed in this province. For example, I can tell you now, our people in Mirafong, in Carltonville, they don't have a train which can take them from Western area to Oberholzer. And there are people who are working to those corridors. If you can, go and tell your own national comrades who are deployed as ministers who are in charge in that department to assist our people so that they can get transport to go and work for their kids. In your speech, Premier, you did not even say anything about the removal of it all. Yet you marched to your own president, grandstanding, doing that thing of yours, your guara, only to micromanage in your corners. In your previous speech, you promised the residents of Gauteng that you will be consulting with your national minister. You further committed your administration to carry some of the cost. As the EFF, we want to tell you for free that we are prepared to physically to remove
Time
these
up.
countries.
Thank you. Thank you. Time up. Honourable
Thank you very
Bloom.
much.
time of how.
Madam Speaker, our camera was working.
Yes, your camera is working, Honourable Bloom.
Is it? I couldn't see myself. Is my camera working, Madam Speaker? Thank you. Can I proceed? Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, you take our time.
Can I be protected, Madam Speaker?
Speaker.
Madam Speaker, it was supposed to be 18 minutes.
Honourable Mukwebo, your time is up. You are disturbing Honourable Bloom, please.
It was supposed to be 18 minutes, Madam Speaker.
Can you switch off? Honourable Mukwebo, can you switch off your video?
18 minutes.
Honourable Mukwebo, can you switch off your video?
Order.
Speaker.
Madam Speaker, order.
Madam Speaker, it was supposed to be 18 minutes, not 8 minutes.
It's not.
Madam
Honourable Mukwebo, can you switch off your video?
No, it's still on the platform, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Mukwebo, can you switch off your video?
It's still on the platform.
No, it's not fair.
Let's allow Honourable Bloom.
He's still on the.
Madam Speaker, can I proceed?
It was supposed to be 18 minutes, not 8 minutes.
Why are we robbed in our minutes? Why are we robbed?
Madam Speaker, please allow them.
No, the Speaker cannot count now.
Honourable members, please, can you be orderly? Unless there are intentions to disrupt this sitting. Honourable Mukwebo, can you switch off your video? Honourable Bloom, you are allowed on the floor.
Continue speaking.
Honourable Mukwebo,
Madam Speaker,
the party leader.
Madam Speaker, can I have protection?
Why are you doing this?
For what? Mukwebo, continue speaking.
Madam Speaker, I'm going to
Honourable
proceed, but can I
Mukwebo.
please have my...
Wrong way.
This thing of visual is just a mess.
Order.
Blom, Mukwebo, continue speaking.
Blom.
Honourable Masimula, I'm not going to allow that. You need to be allowed to speak. At this stage, I'm only allowing Honourable Bloom to speak. Honourable Masimula, can you switch off? Honourable Mukwebo, can you switch off your video? The time now is given to Honourable Bloom. Unless if there are intentions to disrupt the proceedings.
So Blom must speak on our time.
I'm not sure which watch we are using.
Madam Speaker, I'm reluctant to speak with all this interruption, and when I do start, can I please
Honourable Bloom, Honourable Bloom, please, Honourable Bloom, I know what I'm doing. Can I request our team to switch off Honourable Mukwebo? I'm going to kick you out of the sittings if you continue doing what you are doing now. Honourable Bloom, you are allowed.
Order, Speaker. Madam Speaker, my speech today take the perspective of hypothetical. Madam, Madam Speaker, I can't speak with these interruptions.
Honourable Blom. We are still resolving.
Honourable Masimula, please.
Our minutes are not finished.
It's now time for Honourable Bloom to speak. Honourable Bloom, continue. You are protected.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I hope I get my full 10 minutes. Madam Speaker, my speech today will take the perspective of the hypothetical...
No, there's a paper there, Bloom, wait, there's a paper there circulating. They are telling the speaker there, they robbed me time.
I'm taking care. 18 minutes, not 8 minutes.
What is happening to
Honourable Mukwebo.
Can you activate the remaining 5 minutes to our party leader, please?
Our time is not elapsed.
Not 8 minutes.
Yes, Speaker.
Honourable Masimula, this is the last time that I'm going to request that you keep quiet. Honourable Masimula, this is the last time that I'm going to ask you to keep quiet. Otherwise, I'm going to kick you off the meeting. Can we allow, and Honourable Mukwebo, can you also switch off your video? The only person that has a right to speak now is Honourable Bloom. Honourable Bloom, over to you. We have muted your time. Your time is going to start now. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my speech today will take the perspective of the hypothetical man from Mars. What would a completely alien visitor make of this provincial government? Our man from Mars listened intently to the Honourable Premier, and he gave his inaugural speech in June 2014. The man from Mars was impressed by the frank way in which the Honourable Premier spoke about the anger of the people in this province and various issues and what he was going to do about it. The man from Mars was a little puzzled that the Honourable Premier mentioned in his inaugural speech radical change no less than 29 times. He wondered why so much needed to be changed when the same political party had been in charge since 1994. The man from Mars heard the Honourable Premier devote a lot of time to the plight of people in long hospital queues and what would be done to fight corruption. He heard the Honourable Premier pledge that, quote, fraud and corruption are prevented and detected early in the value chain to prevent losses. He also heard that there would be, quote, an urgent turnaround in the Gauteng Health Department. That was in June 2014. Madam Speaker, people from Mars have long memories and they understand things very literally. They think that what is said reflects reality and that if someone says they will do something, then they will do it. The man from Mars also remembers that the Honourable Premier said in his SOPA address 6 years ago that good progress was being made in the health turnaround strategy and that the department would return to normality in May 2015. He also heard that the e-health program would get rid of paper files and reduce queues, and that it would, quote, commence with the building of new hospitals in Soshanguve and Lillian Ngoyi. Now, the man from Mars wonders why that has not happened 6 years later. He has looked into a human land.
Oh, yeah, now the men from Mars, we are not living in Mars.
And we are
Living on Earth.
Honourable Bloom, find a better space to speak.
No, can we finish? We can represent his views. He went to Mars. He might have gone to Mars, Madam Speaker. He flew out to Mars on NASA Perseverance rover.
No, comrade, remember, he stays in his mother's house, so...
No, we know it's a problem with the network.
No, Bloom can go to Mars. Bloom can go to
How is it allowed to make noise? Right?
Let's
But
respect
you are allowing your
Member
howlers
Bloom
to
and
continue and make noise.
No, members, you don't have to do that.
You push us away, push even Bloom away. Let's go on.
Honourable Bloom, are you reconnecting? I know you still have 3 minutes. Well, let me allow the next speaker, Honourable Mukheti.
Madam Speaker, I don't know what happened. Someone removed me from the meeting.
No, it's your network. Okay, let's allow Honourable Bloom that 3 minutes that is still outstanding for you.
Was it? Okay. The man from Mars looked into a dictionary and found the following.
Your mother is calling you.
Accountability is the willingness to accept responsibility for your actions. The man from Mars looked at our laws and discovered that a provincial premier appoints MECs and head.
Your mother is calling you.
Honourable Bloom, we're still trying to listen to you.
Madam Speaker, somebody removed me from the meeting. It
No,
wasn't
we're
my
not-
network. I had a notice that I was removed.
Your mother was
Can you
calling
please look at what's happening?
Honourable Bloom, you are not removed, but it's your network. Maybe it's the video.
Madam Speaker, it had a notice. I got 2 notices saying that I'd been removed from the network, from the meeting.
Can you switch off your video, then your network will not be disturbed. Switch off your
Can
video,
I-
you're allowed.
Can I switch off my... Let me do it on my laptop then, because I don't know why. it
Yeah,
was
you see
removed,
now that's
but,
better.
Switch off video. But also come back to F. Stop broadcasting from
Can I proceed, Madam Speaker?
That's better.
Okay. Madam Speaker, I hope I get an...
Ezra. 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 Yeah, but also, man, this thing of
Honourable
mass,
Bloom, when you
all
switch,
have-
when you use 2
people are
gadgets,
broadcasting
you'll
from
always
Mars.
have a problem.
Ezra.
Use one gadget. If you want to use your laptop, continue with your laptop.
Dear, for no reason. Busy house.
Bloom, are you at your parents' house?
Can I allow Honourable Mukherjee?
Madam Speaker, there's some sabotage going on because someone has removed me twice.
No,
3 times. I just
Honourable
had a meeting.
Bloom.
Somebody has
The alien.
Honourable Bloom,
It's the alien.
no, Honourable Bloom, use one gadget. You'll not have a problem, please.
Okay, all right, can I finish my speech? I'm using my laptop.
Finish your speech, but you only have 4 minutes left.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, the man from Mars noted that the Honourable Premier appointed Kodani Mashlangu as Health Minister and Barney Selabana as the health head. And they both left after the life of tragedy. The net health...
Aliens.
Honourable Bloom, it does look like the man from Mars. Because we can hear you well, it's only this man from Mars that is disturbing you.
It's not the network, I'm on fiber, and it keeps telling me that
You are playing. You spoke behind the head.
Madam Speaker, somebody is removing me. I
No, Honourable Bloom, just speak. We can hear you when you speak.
Okay.
It's the aliens that are removing you.
A high-level intervention team was appointed in November 2015 to fix the deep-rooted problems of the department. But when the COVID-19 crisis hit, the managerial deficiencies were still there, and the corruption network sprang into action. While health workers risked their lives with inadequate and sub-quality PPE, nefarious people decided to enrich themselves. And so, 2 more of the Honourable Premier's appointees left in disgrace, Vandela Masuku and Professor Lukele. The corruption and irregularities included the 2 billion rand spent on urgent needed infrastructure to create new beds. The Honourable Premier boasts that 4,265 new functional beds
can we be allocated this minutes of Chrome?
Madam Speaker, there has to be an investigation. Every time I compute, I'm on one device only. It said somebody removed you from the meeting. I've had that notice 5 times now. Somebody is sabotaging my speech. I really, honestly, I can't go on like this. It said there's somebody removed you from the meeting. So I've been removed from this meeting. It wasn't a network problem. It wasn't a matter of being on 2 devices. I've been on my cell phone. I'm now on my laptop. Somebody has removed me from this meeting. I really think that I have to ask for an investigation. This is sabotage.
We'll ask the aliens from Mars to investigate.
Honourable Bloom, do you want to still use your 2 minutes?
Madam Speaker, it's been so disrupted. I must be honest. I must be honest. But let me just summarize that the new bill.
No, Madam Speaker, it's his own gadget. It's not.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I just had another notice that I've been removed from the meeting. This hasn't happened before. There is a sabotage. I actually must demand an investigation. I'm not going to continue because somebody keeps removing from the meeting. I actually asked for an investigation. I've now been removed. Somebody has removed me from the meeting now 6 times. It's quite evident that if I start again, I'll be removed from the meeting again. I don't think it's a technicality. I think it's deliberate.
It's not true. It's not true, Honourable. It's not true.
Okay, Honourable, I think we'll investigate that. If you demand, let's therefore call upon Honourable Mokgethi.
I was just removed again. There's clearly sabotage in this, and I must ask that it's investigated. I get the opportunity to speak again.
Honourable Bloom was checking with the ICT. We're checking with the ICT. We'll give you feedback as soon as we can. But let's allow Honourable Mokgethi to speak now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and Deputy Speaker, Honourable Premier, members of the Executive Council, Honourable Chief Whip of the Majority Party, members of the Provincial Legislature, and the people of Gauteng. We meet in this August House today in the year 2021, a year that has been declared for Umama Charlotte Maxeke, to whom we are commemorating the 150th anniversary of her birth. Umama Charlotte was an icon revolutionary, a female compatriot who devoted her entire being for the advancement of a liberation struggle for her marginalized people. As the first Black woman to obtain a science degree, she was a trailblazer whose impact in the health sector has gone to inspire generations of healthcare workers who today continue to lead from the front in the battle against the invisible enemy called COVID-19. The women of our country and the world also continue to draw inspiration from his selfless matriarch who advanced a non-sexist society. Almost a year ago, the novel coronavirus was declared a pandemic, leading to the declaration of the national state of disaster. From that point on, life has not been the same. Not only did we experience unprecedented loss of life, we are now have to contend with what is called the new normal. Regrettably, as the Gauteng Department of Health, we have lost many frontline healthcare workers. As of the 24th of February 2021, there are 96 health workers who died in the line of duty. Sorry, Madam Speaker, I'm bleeding from my mouth. Can you give me a tissue paper? The mouth.
Yeah. Sorry, dear. Sorry. Askis. Sorry, ne? Sorry, Mokgethi.
Larry lawyer, labona no Larry lawyer.
Lawyer, lawyer, yeah.
No, it's not. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. May I continue? Our deepest condolences go to their families. May their soul rest peacefully. They will always be remembered as patriots who selflessly laid their lives on the line for the greater benefit of our society. Furthermore, there are 1,697 healthcare workers who contracted the virus and were admitted to hospital. Of this number, 1,528 healthcare workers were discharged from hospitals after being admitted, and a total of 20 were critically sick that they were transferred from one health facility to another. In light of the distress, the department took a conscious decision to provide our healthcare workers with psychosocial support in an effort to quell the psychological anxiety our healthcare workers had to endure. The department is offering group counseling through a transversal program called Zinakekele, providing a one-on-one virtual counseling service with other employees joining the peer support group to share their experiences as well. There is also a spiritual support network of faith-based organizations coordinated by the MEC of Finance, MEC Rale Huko. The department is also doing well. The department is also doing all this because it understands the plight of healthcare workers, and it will employ every means necessary to safeguard the interests of our healthcare workers. This is also in a spirit of a caring government, putting the well-being of our workers first. Madam Speaker, our country has received 80,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccine on the 16th of February 2021. Of the 80,000 doses, Gauteng received 16,800, which is 21% of the total J&J vaccine. We then allocated 5,720 to Steve Biko Academic Hospital, and 11,080 doses was distributed to Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. The department has vaccinated to date 9,314 health workers, which put us as number one in the country. It is also noted that Steve Biko Academic Hospital finished their allocated dose yesterday on the 24th of February 2021, and they will be getting additional doses from the Eastern Cape, and they also received additional doses from Chris Hani Baragwanath. These are being rolled out as part of the Sisonke vaccination program, which is an implementation study introduced to provide early access to the vaccine to our healthcare workers. This is an important step in safeguarding the lives of men and women who are in the front line and preserve the healthcare system. Madam Speaker, the department noted that the rollout of the implementation study vaccination program that took place in Steve Biko Academic Hospital last Saturday was characterized by overflow of healthcare workers, influenced by the fear that the vaccine might run out before they can get it. But Madam Speaker, I want to declare categorically that no health workers will be left without receiving their dose. Madam Speaker, our Honourable Premier David Makhura indicated in his State of the Province address that the department has expanded its capacity to provide quality health care through additional 4,265 new functional beds and 4,992 posts created and filled between April 2020 and January 2021. This includes another 1,425 beds, which are in the final stages to be operationalized, and additional staffing from the start of the new financial year. Madam Speaker, expanding our capacity and improving health infrastructure is highly significant for the prospect of long-term investment over and above the COVID pandemic. Another important aspect to note is the decommissioning of Nazareth Field Hospital for COVID-19 patients. The Nazareth COVID-19 Management and Treatment Hospital were established in response to the pandemic, upsurge and growing demand for facilities designated to cater for COVID-19 patients. Due to the recent declining numbers of COVID-19 infections in our province and the increased capacity of beds in our hospitals, it is fruitless to keep the hospital operational. There is certainly no scientific or clinical rationale to retain the facility, and the department has been advised by experts to shut it down. We will publicly communicate further information on this matter. Honourable members, it is important to note that the ANC-led government has built a strong and resilient Gauteng health system. It managed to accommodate the highest demand from COVID-19 patients that needed to be admitted. Another important factor to take into consideration, honourable members, is how both private and public joined hands to combat the scourge of the virus. This collaborative effort underpinned the objective of the NHI and signaled that as a country, we can go a long way to cater for common health needs of our people, irrespective of the social status. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, COVID-19 has not disappeared. It is still amongst us. We must continue to adhere to non-pharmaceutical interventions by sanitizing and washing our hands regularly, wearing a mask in public space, and practicing social distancing.
Thank you, Honourable MC. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Honourable Diale.
Honourable Speaker, on a point of order, please.
Honourable Speaker of the House and Deputy Speaker, the Honourable Premier of Gauteng, members of the Executive Council from Gauteng, Chief Whip of the Majority Party, Honourable members of
Honourable Diale.
ladies and gentlemen.
Honourable Diale, aren't you having another gadget there with you?
No?
Can I request members in the House, can you switch off your gadgets?
Yeah, but on the point of order, please.
Okay.
Members are in here.
Okay. Continue, Honourable Diale.
Madam Speaker, ke simolole ka go lebogela tšhono eno ya gore le rona re le ba mokgatlho wa African National Congress re joine maloko a ntlo eno go tla go tshegetsa ka puo State of the Province addressed by our Honourable Premier. I am fundamentally an optimist. Part of being optimistic is keeping one's head pointed towards the sun, one's feet moving forward. There were many dark moments when my faith in humanity was sorely tested, but I would not and could not give myself up to despair. That way lays defeat and death. These, of course, are my feelings, but today I'm quoting one of the greatest leaders of our times, whose resilient spirit survived 27 years imprisonment and still came back to be a first democratic president of the Republic of South Africa. Emulating his tenacity, we are keeping our heads pointed towards the sun, with our feet moving forward, believing that we shall rise like a phoenix and reignite Gauteng's economy after the ravages of COVID-19 pandemic. From the Presidential Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, the State of Nation Address to the SOPA, we have been talking about localization, reindustrialization, and export promotion as a big part of our governmental strategy in this new era of COVID-19. This point is proving more relevant now with the latest unemployment statistics levels at 32.5. We have mass employment programs aimed at reversing the trend, some of which the Honourable Premier spoke about in his SOPA address 2 days ago. Let us remember that we are not only speaking about big projects or writing new policies. The ANC-led government is implementing programs aimed at reigniting the economy to create opportunities that will change the lives of Gauteng communities. Madam Speaker, in the words of Sharon Barrow, who was elected General Secretary of the International Trade Union Confederation at its Second World Congress in Vancouver, we need economic growth. Yes, but growth can be jobless. So a sustainable development framework for employment must include a job creation strategy. The ANC-led government is exploring a mission-orientated recovery and jobs programs as a big part of process of reigniting the South African economy in general and Gauteng in particular. The Premier spoke about implementing the Gauteng 4R growth and digitalization strategy, which has 4 pillars, and I think all members are aware of the pillars. We also spoke about social development and environmental programs that have already created 130,000 short and long-term employment and business opportunities. This was done while simultaneously creating an enabling environment for private sector-led massive employment programs. In an economy like ours, in which the primary agricultural sector plays a big role in employment creation, it would be amiss to ignore agriculture as a key employment creation sector. Big projects are planned for implementation here. If we learned nothing from the late Minister of Health, Comrade Dr. Manto Chabalala Msimang, may her revolutionary soul rest in peace, COVID-19 reminded us of the value of organic foods. With the recent shortages of garlic and ginger, the opportunistic white supremacist retailers once again sought to benefit from the national state of disaster that we are in. The importance of agriculture cannot be overemphasized. We will exploit the opportunities presented by cannabis as a new growth industry, taking advantage of the industry's employment creation opportunities and those of entrepreneurship in line with the Premier's State of the Province address. We may ask the question, what is the relevance of all this? The simple answer is that they talk to the reigniting of Gauteng's economy. Each of the projects planned to be undertaken has its own underlying infrastructural drive, human capacity, skills, and local IP development. We can quote the 22,000 jobs created by the government departments in Gauteng, the almost 95,000 type of 1 million jobs quoted by the Premier in his SOPA address, and other projects that created jobs. With the province facilitating a working arrangement amongst the different spheres of government, we have already been able to unlock investments and capacity in the Tshwane Special Economic Zone and other areas through public-private partnerships. In Tshwane SCZ alone, investment in excess of 23 billion were secured, showing a real commitment to the project of reigniting our provincial economy. Madam Speaker, indeed, action is key, and there's no need for new broad policy documents, but implementable programs. We are not afraid. We accept and own up to our mistakes. We are now more than prepared as the ANC-led government to work harder for the people of Gauteng. Future investments that have no consideration for the youth are bound to fail. Over and above the type of 1 million jobs mentioned above, the Gauteng City region aims to build a dynamic digital economy that offers employment and entrepreneurship opportunities to the youth as part of implementation of the Gauteng 4R growth and digital strategy. Yes, we are repeating this point for emphasis on the strategy, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I stand here today in the year in which, as the African National Congress, we celebrate 150 years of Mama Charlotte Maxeke, a freedom fighter in Bogoto, Seaparangwe, who fought for the emancipation of all of us as black women. It is therefore important, Madam Speaker, that as we regroup and embark on the economic recovery path, our response to women emancipation must be the epicenter of the economic recovery plan to ensure sustainable future growth of the country. Thank you very much.
Honourable Ramolifo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable members, good morning. Let me start by congratulating all the learners who sat for the 2020 end-of-year examinations, and especially to the matric learners. To all teachers who rejected the call to postpone the future of our children, we salute you. Well done. We're joining you in celebrating the outstanding performance of our learners, schools, districts, and the province during this difficult period of the national lockdown as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Honourable Premier, when COVID-19 first hit the country, It created so many uncertainties. However, South Africans gave all their trust to politicians who are the leaders in government to guide them and manage the pandemic. When the national lockdown was implemented in March last year, people had hoped that government was doing its absolute best to contain the virus and putting the nation's interests first. Little did they know that politicians were taking advantage of this pandemic to enrich themselves. Honourable Premier, when you said there's no corruption in Gauteng, we almost believed you. Remember the first corruption allegations when Mr. Hamilton Mushali bought luxurious vehicles which went viral on social media. There were also claims that you were blessed with one of the best Jeep cars from Hamilton as a reward for offering him a big personal protective equipment tender. You then corrected it, and that was when the PPE tender scandals started to be exposed throughout the entire country. Some politicians could not resist the temptation, but continued to break the trust. It was difficult for the opposition politicians to conduct robust oversight and to hold the executive to account because of the lockdown regulations. Many of these regulations did not even make sense or based on science, but South Africans were informed that it was part of government's commitment to save their lives. Many people failed to bid farewell to their beloved ones. Inter-provincial travel was prohibited. Many have lost income as their companies could not conduct businesses as a result of the lockdown regulations. Many jobs were lost, while some tenderpreneurs were busy at work. They were focused on looting the public coffers. Real entrepreneurs lost out because they do not have the so-called good network with government. Unfortunately, the tenderpreneurs are not creating employment opportunities, but they are winning huge tenders. It is appalling to learn that the learning and teaching technology deployed in our schools in this province does not match the fourth industrial revolution needs. The Gauteng broadband network is not ready to connect anyone in this province. We just observed Member Bloom. Schools were closed as there were many organizations and parents advocating against the opening of schools during the pandemic. We are proud that the decision to continue with the learning and teaching under difficult circumstances was taken. We have managed to navigate, and even though while some of us supported these decisions, others saw an opportunity to loot from the Gauteng Department of Education and other departments. The Gauteng MEC for Education, Mr. Panyaza Lisufi, told members of the Education Committee and the residents of this province that he will give each school 15,000 rand to disinfect all schools, and they are also giving free service to disinfect schools from Bidvest to ensure that all schools are safe and sanitized. Little did we know that almost R500 million was up for grabs, and many schools did not benefit from this money. During my recent oversight inspections to different schools across the province, these schools were shocked to learn about 431 million that has been spent on sanitizing schools, while they only received 15,000 rand. And some were rendered, the free services by Bidvest. Corruption denies our poor people opportunities. As a province, we will never win a fight against corruption until there are consequences. Enough with more investigation and hiding of the reports, like many forensic audits which are kept inside locked office shelves. Who is taking responsibility, and who is being held accountable for all these corruption cases? Certain officials will tell us that the term of office is 5 years and there will be a change of leadership. Are we witnessing officials revolting against the current administration, knowing that it is your last term premier? We have seen ongoing irregular expenditures worth billions of rand. Every year, the Auditor General will make findings, but still remains the government's challenge to date. On the other hand, our provincial department consistently underspends on its allocated budget, yet there are no consequences, while communities are denied quality services they deserve. As we speak now, there are so many learners who are sitting at home, who have not been allocated to schools. The department has failed to effectively use the online admission system to plan for more intake in high-demanding areas. The ANC-led government administration claims that they prioritize poor people and the working class, while the children of those parents are sitting at home unplaced as they cannot afford independent schools. This is clearly widening the inequality and poverty gap in this province. There is no definite answer as of when these unplaced learners will be allocated schools. I've sent, so many emails to MEC, Lisufi, yet there's no solution as to why these children are being subjected to such traumatic situations. These learners are losing contact lessons and are now forced to join those who have dropped out of the system. While provincial government has returned billions of rand to the treasury due to under-expenditure, many schools across the provinces are in dire need of adequate infrastructure, including eradicating asbestos schools. For example, Deepsloot Secondary Schools does not have a fence, the school has been vandalized, and valuable equipment stolen during the school holidays. This school has again achieved 100% pass rate, and you promised to build a brick and mortar school, but to date, they are still using mobile classrooms. It's a reminder, Premier. The principal told me that I must remind you about the commitment you have made. So as I've said, many schools have been burgled and vandalized several times, yet there are no measures being put in place to secure and safeguard the schools. There is no effective school safety strategy. Even when there are repeated cases, police are failing to actually put mechanism in place to stop communities or criminals from vandalizing schools. Government has failed to build new schools in areas where there are new developments, as well as to eradicate asbestos. Yet they continue to underspend on infrastructure budget with billions of rand. While we congratulate the class of 2020, learner dropout still remains the biggest challenge facing the province. Gauteng enrolled 157,253 grade 1 learners in 2009. In 2020, 92,285 wrote grade 12 metric examination. The percentage of learners who started grade 1 in 2009 and wrote the final exams in 2020 and passed is 58.68%. This is worrying. There's a need for an urgent intervention to address learner dropouts in the province. The introduction of schools of specialization is a great initiative. However, the pace in which these schools are being built or transformed is slow. The same day when the State of the Province address was delivered, Stats SA also released unemployment statistics. Education must respond to the unemployment challenge. However, the main focus is on tenderpreneurs instead of entrepreneurs. Commitment to publish evaluation reports of all grades was made last year. When will this start, Premier? We are tired of empty promises. Honourable Premier, your SOPA failed to deal with unplaced learners. I hope when you respond, you will deal with this question, because learners are sitting at home. The department is failing to place all these learners, so it's putting pressure on parents, because when kids are at home, we are expecting them to go back so that they can make a living. But how will they do that when they could not leave their kids on their own? The department is failing to help parents to place learners for the inwards grades. As you know, the grade 1 and grade 8 are done online. But that's not only learners which we have. So these children are of school-going age, and they also need urgent support. It is the responsibility of the department to ensure that these children attend school. It is also the right of these children to access basic quality education. In all these years, you have exposed yourself as Premier who never took accountability for provincial government as a whole, only for your office. But your party always talk about collective leadership. The constitutional role of the provincial government has not been upheld. Corruption has taken the center stage because you have never actively set the example for your cabinet and senior officials to follow, which makes it even more obvious that, the calls which some of your members are making that your term is about to come to an end. It actually makes them feel like it's the right time now. So, Premier, as you have delivered your SOPA, we have observed that there are so many things which you still need to deal with. Corruption in this case is still at the center stage. And that on its own, it tells us that you have failed to lead this province when it comes to tackling corruption. We don't know whether we still need to listen to you.
Time up, Honourable. Time up. Honourable Dlamini. Honourable Dlamini on virtual.
Thank you, Speaker. But before I address you, Speaker, I think Member Bloom is correct. Somebody is being mischievous here. I've been being put out and in of the meeting and sometimes being muted. It must really be investigated. Somebody is being mischievous, and it's not acceptable. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Premier, Honourable members of the Legislature. I don't know whether I'm audible, Speaker.
You are audible, but let me also indicate that it depends on the type of gadget that you use.
No. The gadget tells you which somebody has taken you out of the meeting.
Yeah, but we do hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Speaker.
No, Dlamini, continue while trying to understand like there's something else. We won.
Honourable Speaker, this year's State of the Province address was not like we have ever experienced before. That is because it took place under the unprecedented new normal superimposed on us by the continued prevalence of the COVID-19 pandemic. The devastation caused by the pandemic, along with its economic and social restrictions, is not lost to us as the citizens of this province. Since the arrival of this disease, not a single day has passed without the pronouncement of its casualties, be it losing productive economic activity or worse, the loss of human life. The pandemic has only expounded the social economic woes which the ruling party failed to address way before the novel COVID-19 virus arrived. Specifically, challenges such as youth unemployment, poverty, inequality, gender-based violence, and corruption have become ever so glaring in our society. It is worth noting that just as the Honourable Premier was delivering the SOPA on Tuesday, so did the Statistics South Africa also release their latest quarterly labour force survey results. They revealed that official unemployment reached a new peak of 32.5%, meaning that an additional 701,000 people are without jobs in the latest quarter of 2020. The Premier himself has told us that around 42% of small businesses have shut their doors without a prospect of ever reopening. Honourable Speaker, unfortunately, all of this implies that the chances of creating much-needed employment, poverty and inequality eradication remains bleak. That is the unfortunate reality, and we all must face and accept it. It is the reality of the new normal and the challenge of governing under difficult circumstances. Considering the prevailing difficult circumstances, the Inkatha Freedom Party welcomes the Premier's sober-minded approach to the focus of 4 priorities as reflected in this year's SOPA. Unlike the previous SOPA, which gave us a litany of impractical and unimplementable grand plans, this year's SOPA indicated some promise of action around the set of priorities. However, as the saying goes, the devil lies in the detail. It is this detail in terms of communicating how the plans will be implemented and the timelines, therefore, which the Premier fell short of providing when delivering his address on Tuesday. Our view is that the concentration on limited priorities gives a better chance at addressing some critical challenges that many of our citizens face at this present moment. For instance, the IFP fully welcomes and supports the government's prioritization of fight against COVID-19 and the plans to vaccinate 67% of the Gauteng citizens. We are, however, concerned by the lack of information on how the Honourable Premier plans to address the current inefficiencies in our public hospitals. Just last week, we heard of news reports where some medical health workers were denied their scheduled vaccination at the Steve Biko Academic Hospital. Such news does not inspire public confidence that government is ready and able to deliver on its promise to vaccinate over 10 million people by the end of this year. The goal of building resilient capacities in our health institutions to cope with any future pandemics and disasters in Gauteng needs more than just a plan to procure more beds in our hospitals. The realization of the noble goal calls for effective management and improved patient care at our public hospitals. With that said, the creation and filling of 4,992 public health vacancies between April 2020 and January 2021 are commendable. On revitalizing the Gauteng economy, the Premier says that his administration is taking the lead in implementing President Ramaphosa's economic reconstruction and recovery plan. But beyond the pledges of billions of investment from the private sector. There is nothing tangible to show from this economic recovery and reconstruction recovery plan, save for the Ford Motor Company's announcement of investment.
Thank you, Honourable Dlamini.
Thank you, Honourable Dlamini. Okay, thank you.
Honourable Alberts, connecting virtually.
Agbare Speaker, Premier Makhura, ladies and gentlemen, Premier, last year this time, we did know what events were waiting for us, and we did not know some events that were waiting for us. One of the events that were unknown was the pandemic. The Freedom Front Plus hereby extends our condolences to all those who have lost loved ones, and we wish to hail the heroes and heroines who are still risking their lives to save others during this time. Premier, last year this time we also did know what was awaiting for us under ANC rule. We had the unfortunate certainty of a ruined economy, junk status grading, and a socio-economic fallout in process. The pandemic was not avoidable by this government, but the second event of economic ruin was completely avoidable had sanity prevailed and rational evidence-based policies been implemented sooner rather than later. The pandemic, however, gave this government an opportunity to galvanize everyone into a united response against a joint enemy. It also gave this government an opportunity to change course and implement policies that can actually grow the economy by freeing up the market from excessive regulation and racist policies that are killing jobs and ultimately lives. Albert Einstein is credited for saying that the definition of madness is to do the same thing over and over again, but to expect different results. It is true. So one reasonably expected that the ANC, faced with a pandemic against the backdrop of failed economic policy, would change its ways and stop digging the hole. And lo and behold, the ANC's conduct did change. Not by halting its policies, no, but by intensifying it so that the digging rate actually increased. So in true Einsteinian fashion, here we have a rare example of madness squared. One can also reasonably expect that the ANC, faced with a pandemic of global proportions against the backdrop of failed economic policy, would provide PPE and food assistance to the poorest communities in a fast and efficient manner. And lo and behold, the ANC did provide assistance, not by helping the poor, at least not all of them, but by creating an environment for a huge tender fraud and centralizing the food parcel scheme to the detriment of the poor. This is madness on a quantum computing scale. Premier, the only way to stop this madness and create a better world from this pain, as you said, is to act responsibly and diligently by changing the way government thinks about policies and solutions, and to ensure that implementation of the right economic growth policies is effective, without fear or favor or corruption. Premier, the only way to stop this madness is to create an environment for new foreign and local investment. This means that at least one of the special economic zones must be freed from all government intervention as a test bed of economic growth and comparing its results with that of the other SEZs. The results will show why the current economic policies of the ANC is pure madness. Do not be surprised if Elon Musk, who had to leave this country to become super successful, will return here in the form of investments in the aerospace SEZ, but only if it is free from government intervention. Think about the reasons why SpaceX moved out of California to Texas. Because Elon simply wanted to get away from the madness. We must now end this madness before it ends us. If we do not find a way to super economic growth fast, it will be the end of this province and the country. Most fragile states in the world are based in Africa. We are unfortunately on our way to join that unfortunate club if the ANC does not stop its madness of economic centralization. But if that be the case in the end, the Freedom Front Plus and its people will forge open its own way into the light. I thank you.
Honourable Lasindwa. Honourable Lasindwa. Honourable Lasindwa.
course.
Madam Speaker, I want to propose that in case we can't get hold of her, of Member Lasinda, we can proceed but share her 8 minutes, 4 minutes to Member Mamabolo and 4 minutes to Member Maile. Thank you very much.
Okay. Then it's time for Honourable Maile. Honourable Maile.
Thank you very much, Madod. Gine 4 minutes, 2 minutes, so Yabong Speaker. Outing food, they're doing it. I want to start by acknowledging the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, the Honourable Premier, members of the Executive Council, members of the Honourable House, ladies and gentlemen. In his closing address to the ANC Morogoro Conference in 1969, former ANC President Oliver Reginald Tambo uttered the following well-known words, which are relevant for us even today as we seek to advance the people's struggles towards a national democratic society that offers a better life for all South Africans. And I quote, "Wage a relentless war against disruptors and defend the ANC against provocateurs and enemy agents. Defend the revolution against the enemy propaganda, whatever forms it takes. Be vigilant, comrades. The enemy is vigilant. Beware of wedge driver, the man who creeps from ear to ear, carrying a bag full of wedges, driving them in between you and the next man, between a group and another, a man who goes round creating splits and divisions. Beware of the wedge driver, comrades. Watch his poisonous tongue," and I close quote. When you look at the opposition politics at both political and national level, the focus and ideological outlook of opposition parties seems to be nothing else but to advance a wedge-driving agenda aimed at weakening and ridiculing the ANC in the eyes of the public. That is all that they seem to be putting on the table for the voting public to consider. The obsession with demonizing, criminalizing, and criticizing the ANC as opposed to getting their house in order and providing a viable alternative is all that the opposition seem to be concerned with. They constantly look to meddle in internal ANC politics and succession issues as opposed to dealing with their own very public demons. The ANC is a vehicle for people's emancipation, as a vehicle has never been obsessed with what happens in the internal affairs of other political parties. But it will appear that other political parties have defined themselves and tried to find relevance for themselves within the South African body politic by portraying themselves as the antithesis to the ANC, a reactive and reactionary political posture that leaves them with the crisis that they face now. The ANC is the only political party in South Africa that does not define itself by what its political opposition is doing or not doing. It is this obsession with the ANC and its internal politics, this wedge-driving agenda, that is behind the opportunistic call for a vote of no confidence against the Premier of this province. And I want to tell you now that we are going to defeat that motion on Tuesday, and that Premier Makhura will continue to be the Premier of this province. Exactly. On Tuesday, we are ready for you. We are going to attend you systematically and thoroughly. We are going to lose that debate. When they've been given the opportunity to govern, as we have seen with the collapsed DA-EFF arrangement in Tshwane and Johannesburg, they have done nothing but bring about omnishambles to governance and service delivery, with unsustainable populist policies that they proposed. post-2016 local government elections, the city of Tshwane experienced serious governance challenges with the irregular appointment of a city manager and a chief of staff in the former mayor's office, allegations of widespread corruption and a string of unacceptable, unjustifiable and unreasonable disruptions of council. Council as executive and legislative authority, and these constant disruptions led to a total collapse of governance and institutional decay, as well as instability. In fact, Madam Speaker, by the time provincial government, not Lebogang Maile, intervened and placed the municipality under administration, Tshwane had no mayor, had no mayoral committee, no city manager appointed by council. And these are facts, and they're even in the court documents that you selectively quote, which I would gladly have a discussion with you on. It was a rotten state of affairs. Basic services such as waste collection, provision of water, as evidenced by the South African Human Rights Commission report on Hammanskraal water crisis, had completely collapsed. In some instances, communities went for months without provision of basic services such as water. The most expensive scandal in the history of local government, the multi-billion rand led Africa scandal, happened under the watch of the DA-EFF coalition. Other multi-million rand scandals, such as the irregular appointments of Erocon, also plagued the DA-EFF coalitions in Tshwane, coupled with the loss of 1.6 billion of PEU, who were appointed in 2018. The irregular fuel tender, also in the billions. The widely reported crisis at Vonderbom Airport that included corruption and maladministration. Irregular expenditure which amounted to 5 billion by June 2019, and billions wasted in unauthorized, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure totaling roughly 6.9 billion. And for the record, when we left Tshwane, we left them with 1.3 million with those administrators. So, in the city of Johannesburg, Honourable Michael Jackson, led by another Michael Jackson, DA-EFF coalition, under former Mayor Herman Mashaba, who ironically is now running his own party under a clean governance and anyone but ANC banner. Corruption and maladministration was rife, as evidenced by the corruption around the multi-billion rand fleet contract, multi-million rand conflict of interest scandal against Mashaba over claims that he influenced the funding of an NGO that he chaired for years. And that was about 11 million that was given. And the finding by the public protector that the former mayor irregularly appointed the former Johannesburg Metropolis chief, even though he did not meet the minimum requirements set out in the advert. The public protector found that the former Joburg mayor, Mashaba, was guilty of contravening supply chain management policies, conflict of interest, and making irregular appointments. That is the DA mayor, your cadre. Madam Speaker, on top of all this, the DA-EFF coalition that governed these two metros in Gauteng introduced a whole range of unsustainable populist policies that led to the increment of informal settlements. As you have already said, if you look at the number of informal settlements since 2016 in Tshwane and in Johannesburg and compare them with where the ANC is governing in Ekurhuleni, you will see that you are incompetent, you are populist, you are useless. So the opposition are good at bashing, but when it comes to their own governance record, they have been found wanting and exposed for the empty vessels that they truly are. Even in the much talked about paragon of virtue and ethical clean governance, the Western Cape, we find that our opposition speaks with a forked tongue and seem to, ironically enough, operate according to the principles highlighted by Lenin, comrade Mamabulu, when he said, "A lie told often enough becomes the truth," and close quote. Of course, life remains hunky-dory for citizens of the Western Cape who live in suburbs, on the wine estates and fancy garden routes destinations. But for the impoverished black majority of the Western Cape, which the DA cares nothing about, life remains nothing more than a daily struggle as second-class citizens. As so profoundly captured by a statement recently released by Reclaim the City and the NGO Difunukwazi, when they said the following, and I quote, "Poor and working class families who are predominantly black and colored continue to experience an apartheid city where access to land is reversed for a few and the local authorities' inability to address the deepening crisis of spatial inequality preserves the status quo." And I close quote. Juxtapose this sad reality in the Western Cape with our spatial transformation agenda for Gauteng City Region, as evidenced by our mega human settlement projects, township formalization and informal settlements upgrading program, and our groundbreaking, innovative, rapid land release program. The DA in the Western Cape has complete disregard for township economy. They will be spending apparently 32.4 billion over the medium term to boost economic growth and create jobs, with no well set out plans for direct investment in the township economy. Contrast that with the Gauteng Provincial Government's township economy revitalization strategy, through which the provincial government increased its spend on township enterprises to roughly 22 billion at the end of the 5th administration, a figure which is geared to grow in the next coming, in this term, especially with the introduction of the Township Economic Development Bill, which will take Township Economy Revitalization Program to the next level. The DA often speaks out against the evils of cadre deployment within ANC-led administration. But in the Western Cape, Honourable Msimang, their governance record is littered with irregular appointments, chronism, and favors for friends. A case in point in the Western Cape is that on the 18th May 2018, the former provincial chairperson of the DA, Anton Bredel, who was and still MEC for local government, wrote a letter on a DA letterhead instructing the acting mayor, the speaker, chief whip, DA caucus chairperson of George Municipality to hold the appointment of director of corporate services in the municipality. We don't do those things here in Gauteng. For this action, the MEC was found to have been in breach of the ethics code. On closer inspection, what happened was more than an ethics breach, but a typical DA exercise of defending and advancing white privilege. The one applicant who had been acting in the post, a black person, was the most qualified and suitable candidate, but the DA intervened through the MEC of local government to block the appointment of the more qualified black candidate in favor of a useless white candidate of lesser capacity. In another municipality, Langebek, they appointed a municipal manager with a questionable record who left Midvaal municipality in Gauteng under a cloud, having been suspended by the municipality for a jobs for sale scandal. As reported by the executive mayor of Midvaal, he resigned whilst investigations were going, only to turn up as a municipal manager in this municipality. You are corrupt, inconsistent, and hypocrites. When the Auditor General made quite damning findings against the Western Cape Education Department, as another example, instead of addressing those issues, the DA went on the defensive and tried to accuse the Auditor General of unfairly targeting the Western Cape, only to be reminded by the AG that there is only one standard for all provinces, and they were falling short. So again, the DA seemingly only accepts the impartiality of the Auditor General's findings when it suits them, and when it doesn't, they seek to shift the post, the goalpost. So these are just a few of many examples when the DA Premier in the Western Cape was called upon to remove the MEC of local government. You always tell our Premier who to remove, when to remove, what. Your Premier when he was asked to remove, he never acted. You know what he did, the Premier? He just gave a minor slap on the wrist because you are hypocrites as the DA. It would appear that the DA seems to have one set of rules for itself, where it governs, and then a completely different set of ethical and moral standards for the ANC where it is in opposition. Unlike the opposition, who measure on ANC bashing, Honourable Speaker, in Gauteng we have a plan, and that plan was articulated. You are new and you seem to be drunk. You must not allow drunk people in the house, Honourable Speaker. You are new and you come here, you are drunk. Don't come here drunk. We'll attend to you. We need a breathalyzer. So we have a plan to bring about economic recovery with an infrastructure-driven program, with special economic zones in places such as the one in OR Tambo. So lest we be accused of falling prey to the same fault that we accuse the opposition of, we only highlight these inconsistencies to show that the opposition are like a road sign. They are ANC-centric, wedge-driving politics. A road sign can point the way to destination, but it itself can never go there, and it can never physically take you there. We highlight these inconsistencies of the opposition to show that they have no tangible solutions to the problems we are faced with. Apart from ANC bashing, we remain the best hope for the betterment of the lives of our people. Having said that, Honourable Speaker, I think it's important that we attend to some of the issues as we tolerate even drunkards. We attend some of these issues. There's issues that Member Msimang has raised. So he calls me the wannabe Premier. When in fact he wanted to be Premier, he was trashed by Premier Makhura in 2014. He was attended to. So you want to subject me to that trashing you received? My ambitions are not uncontrollable. You have uncontrollable desire for power, and you think I'm like you. I grew up in the ANC, and I know in the ANC, you don't choose what you want. So we can tell you now that Premier Makhura is the chair of the ANC in this province. He was elected, and the ANC Provincial Conference is in 2022. So if you don't like him and you want us to remove him, unfortunately, you'll have to wait for the conference of the ANC, which is next year. So there is no such. That's the first thing. The second thing,
to remove him at the conference,
Honourable Speaker, is that we are going to defeat you on Tuesday. Is that this notion that there was an illegal dissolution of Tshwane. So it's a DA narrative, and that's why they were even going around saying, no, the court never said it's illegal. You did not read the court documents. The court never said that. And that is why in the Supreme Court of Appeal, there were 2 judges out of 5 who agreed with us. And the matter is still with the Constitutional Court. So we are going to be attending to you. And in fact, if you continue to do wrong things in Tshwane, we are coming for you. Honourable Speaker, we are the first to admit that there are challenges, serious challenges. We have on several occasions, we have even beefed up the team that we have sent there. And when the Premier said we have deployed resources in Mfuleni, it doesn't mean the resources are with the municipality. MEC Mamabulo will be spending 173 million to deal with the road infrastructure in Mfuleni. We are intervening not only in words. MEC Tau will be spending 53 million in Mfuleni to deal with waste issues. End of March, we will be delivering a fleet there to help with all those issues.
Where are the houses?
The Minister of Water and Sanitation will be spending on issues of sewer. We are continuing to engage with with ESCOM and rainwater, and as you might have seen, Honourable Simang, we have been able to reach an agreement with them, and we are continuing to pay them.
Honourable members, sorry, honourable members, I know that heckling is allowed, but to a point where we should actually listen. Thank you.
No, she's drunk. The new one is drunk. So, Honourable Ramuli, I see you're taking advantage that MEC Lessufi is not here. MEC Lessufi, because, no, wait, man. MEC Lessufi is on record explaining the issue of learners who have not been accepted. And in fact, it's not a new problem. You will know, as a person who serves in the committee, that every year in Gauteng we receive nothing less than 80,000 new learners who come to the province. So to create an impression that that has to do with the incompetence of the provincial government is actually disingenuous, and it actually borders on your own hypocrisy, because you know what is the nature of the problem. It has nothing to do, and by the way, you will know that the only two provinces which have got huge learner numbers is Gauteng and KZN. And that is why every time when you come here with your Michael Jackson gimmicks, always telling us about some small province there, Western Cape, when in every area you can go to education, go to health, you can't compare. You can't compare. So you need to be consistent and don't tell the lie. In fact, help us with the solutions, because MEC Lessufi is working very hard. You know, he's working very hard to attend to the problem, which is not created by ourselves, but is created by the conditions we set. So I've got enough time for you. That's why I'm coming. But then, member Ramuli, again, on the broadband issue, you guys, you had a clown of a mayor somewhere in Tshwane. That clown came there. And then he said, no, we must do away with the contract Wi-Fi and ton. Now you come here and create an impression that we are not. In fact, the MEC of e-government will demonstrate to you that we're investing resources, that we're making progress, that we are connecting more sides when she delivers the budget vote. So you are just blowing hot air and you are not consistent.
Those are the clowns.
So,
those ones that refuse to dissolve municipality are the clowns.
No, I think it's on Honourable Speaker, thank you very much. You drunkard!
Madam Speaker, may I rise on 77.5?
Honourable Koma. Honourable Koma.
You must go and buy more expensive wine. Not buy this pub side.
Members, thank you. Honourable Koma, your hand was up. Can I understand what you want to do?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My hand was up because the time was elapsed. So we give extra time for Honourable Mai.
Okay. Honourable Ramlife, I've noted you.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to check with the member Maile if he will take questions.
Which rule are you using?
77.5.
Honourable Maile, are you taking a question?
As long as it's not a stupid question, no problem.
Continue, Honourable Ramlifo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Can we allow Honourable Ramlifo, please?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to ask Honourable MEC Maile whether the problems with which Lesedi and Mfuleni are facing, is it as a result of the coalition which is not functioning, or is just the ANC-led government failing, Mfuleni and Lesedi?
umuntu ubuza umbhedo kodwa kunankinga. I have explained. Unfortunately, my vendor is not fluent. Mara kile ka tlhalusa Mkhalabi hore botata ba kwa bo domile khale and botata bola bona le number of elements to it, and that's why re deal ka bona, because we want to make sure masipala ela e serve batho ba bo rena ga botse kwa ntate Ramulifu. So we are attending to it. Oh, but now interpret Premier. So rollable.
Honourable Adams.
You did not answer the question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Makhura, we are not allowed to speak now. Can you allow Honourable Adams?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Premier David Makhura, Deputy Speaker, all other protocol observed. Please allow me this day as I rise to firstly mourn with the rest of our province, the almost 10,000 of our people who have succumbed to COVID-19. Many lives have been lost, many livelihoods have been destroyed. But let me salute and honor the brave and fearless sacrifices of our frontline workers who continues to save thousands of lives. I detect that there is a patriotic spirit that runs in our veins through the acts of solidarity and sacrifices of our people who rally to help others to survive. Honourable Speaker, let me respond to the State of the Province address delivered by the Honourable Premier David Makhura. Premier, I listened very attentively and heard you say some important stuff on which I want to build my response. I agree with you when you say, and I quote, that there is no time for complacency and cynicism. We need to put our country, our province, and the people above any petty professional rivalries and jealousies and any petty political squabbles. But Premier, what really stood out for me and stuck with me is what you mentioned concerning objective conclusions in assessing Gauteng's response to COVID-19. In my humble view, Premier, the lessons learned in, as you call it, the battle to overcome COVID-19. Let me at this juncture of my response commend the GPG for the work done in fighting this pandemic, notwithstanding, however, the corruption allegations and actual irregularities and corrupt practices that took place in procurement processes, especially in PPE corruption. It is absolutely heartbreaking that during a deadly pandemic, there are those who saw an ill opportunity to loot public resources. Premier, your response to COVID-19 is encapsulated in one word called service delivery. After having said all that, Premier, may I make a plea to you that in the same way that you and your government dealt with and attacked the battle against COVID-19, that the same approach, plan and strategy be adopted to tackle all other challenges that our people face in the province of Gauteng. The GPG has proven its capacity in the fight against COVID-19. No excuses will suffice any longer. We have seen the capability of government on all three tiers. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man of God, a human rights activist, exclaimed, "We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history is such a thing as being too late. This is no time for apathy or complacency. This is a time for vigorous and positive action. Action to address head-on key challenges that have reached crisis level in our society, such as gender-based violence and femicide, orchestrated economic oppression, lack of housing, unemployment and scarcity of job opportunities, poor economic growth, substandard education and skills development, inadequate health services, escalating crime, drug cartels, kidnapping and gangsterism, corruption within the public and private sectors, land and property rights that are not transferred to the people, and with the upcoming local government election, political violence. In fact, Mr. Premier, we have come here to announce the urgency of now. Now is the time to make real promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise out of poverty and degradation, hunger and lost opportunities. Now is the time to rise. We as a people banded together during the fight against COVID-19.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Adams. Thank you, Honourable Adams. Thank you. Thank you. Honourable Kana.
Come here. Come. Oh, yours is fine.
Oh. Thanks very much, Madam Speaker. As you will know, that we're allocated 2 minutes free time, and I intend to use that free time. Madam Speaker, honourable members, the people of Gauteng, fellow South Africans. We are debating the Gauteng state of the province at a time that our country is battling the COVID-19 pandemic. And I want to send my condolences to all the families and friends who have lost loved ones to this deadly virus. And I want to thank all the healthcare workers who have been on the front line fighting this pandemic. I want to say in my language, Kurikensil. On Tuesday, the Premier delivered what was supposed to be the state of Gauteng province. It was an opportunity for the Premier to unpack the true state of Gauteng, its challenges, and how best we can emerge from the dire situation in which we find ourselves. The Premier used over 8,500 words to say very little, if anything at all. Bishop, Ecclesiastes chapter 6, verse 11, reads as follows. The more the words, the less the meaning, and how does that profit anyone? The people of Gauteng have not profited in any way from the many words that you have uttered on Tuesday, Mr. Premier. While the Premier was speaking, Statistics South Africa was releasing the fourth quarter labor force survey. The latest labor force survey indicates that there are over 7 million people in South Africa who are unemployed, with Gauteng accounting for 2.3 million of the unemployed. Gauteng now has the second highest unemployment rate in the country, following the Eastern Cape. What we are observing in Gauteng is the urbanization of unemployment and poverty. More people are poor and unemployed in Gauteng than there were in 2014 when you took charge as a Premier of this province. This was the 7th state of the province address that you delivered. And as I sat here, listening to you, I asked myself, what will be the best measure of the words that you uttered? And I have to say, like my colleague, Honourable Ramulifo said, you delivered a lot of empty promises. For the last 7 years, you have done well to deliver promises or wishes to the people of Gauteng. And the best way to judge a Premier of Gauteng is not on what they say they will do, but on what they are known to have done. And for you, Mr. Premier, your empty promises speaks for themselves. In last year's debate, I quoted philosopher Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, who said, knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must act. And for you, Mr. Premier, you have failed to apply that which you know, and your actions have not followed your wishes. This is your second term as a Premier of Gauteng. It was supposed to be a term wherein you accelerate building a capable Gauteng that offers effective response to the challenges of inequality, unemployment, and poverty that the people of Gauteng face. But I have to say, you have been a huge disappointment. Watching you deliver your address on Tuesday, I could tell that you were preoccupied with other things other than being the Premier of Gauteng. The boldness you displayed in your first term has been replaced with a lot of inaction. You are leading like you are dancing on eggshells, scared to take decisions that will upset some constituencies in your own organization. By so doing, you have succeeded in disappointing the people of Gauteng by your inactions. I know you'll dismiss my conclusion as a normal reaction of an opposition member. But you and I know that even your own comrades, Premier, are talking about life after Makhura. And they are not talking about 2024, but they are talking very soon.
You were not elected.
Even your own comrades believe that you are no longer fit to lead Gauteng. Not only the ANC.
We are talking about life
and
after
you know, so the
life
Makariki faction in your organization, which you know very well, is busy mobilizing for your ouster. Talk has it, Mr. Premier. Talk has it that you will not finish the second term. The popular hashtag in Gauteng is Makhura not fit to govern. It's reverberating, even in your own organization. And I have to say that if I were in your shoes, I'll lead like it's my last day. For I don't know when the Makariki faction will strike. I'll be leading to leave a positive legacy. And I have to say, Mr. Premier, you are a likable man. You are a likable man who talk the good talk, but can't walk the talk. What Gauteng needs is a Premier that walks more than he talks. More doing and less talking. 7 years later, your legacy in Gauteng is rising unemployment, life is demeaning, COVID-19 corruption, e-tolls that are still in existence, and a collapsed Gauteng enterprise propeller, and a failing healthcare system. If the Makariki faction was to remove you next week, this is what you'll be remembered for. There was a time that people used to believe you were different, but we now know that even staff members in your own office have the bravado to engage in corrupt practices, practices that robs the people of Gauteng of important services. The fish rots from the head, and in Gauteng, corruption starts at the Premier's office. I mean, Mr. Premier, you even went to court to confirm that indeed the staff members in your office facilitated corruption. Because the court had said the Premier is corrupt, and you said, no, 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 it's not me. It's the staff members in my office, as if the staff members are leading themselves. For they know that your days are numbered. With rising unemployment in Gauteng, there are urgent things that I thought you'll focus on. So one of the things that I thought you will be focusing on is to urgently lobby the Minister of Labour and Employment to make it easy for companies and firms to hire the millions of unemployed people in Gauteng. Gauteng should be a special employment zone where it is easy to hire the people of Gauteng. To hire people in the special economic zones, we need a flexible labor regime. When we talk of SEZ, we should be talking of special employment zones. The Premier, if he was serious about tackling unemployment, should have been leading, should have been at the forefront of this lobby. leading the fight to Parliament on behalf of Gauteng. But no, he's sitting worrying about the Makariki faction. The Gauteng Growth Development Agency, together with the National Department of Trade and Competition, should be leading efforts to open export channels of goods produced in Gauteng. GGDA and the Department of Economic Development should be looking at taking advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Area. But this is not the case. We do know that for the economy to grow, we need new capital investment. We need improved technology. We need entrepreneurship, labor, and we need to produce goods and services that the rest of the world needs to consume. That's how the economy grows. That's how we should be focusing our attention on. So you are talking about tackling joblessness in Gauteng and Gauteng Enterprise Propeller is broken. I have no doubt that you have plans. You have been planning. You've been planning all this time, and there's nothing to show. Your plans contain so many words in a way that they are even so meaningless, and they profit no one in Gauteng. That's what ethicists say. The Gauteng Enterprise Propeller is currently sitting on top of 250 million, Mr. Premier. 250 million that you have given to them last year, and not even a cent has been spent. And I must say, Madam Speaker, honourable members, that even when the former president said, so he said, you know what, in fact, the problem of the ANC, the major problem of the ANC is telling lies. And I have to say that listening to Member Maile, Isaac, who spoke so much because he's got other desires. He did not even mention one thing that you have done right. He went on a tangent to make you believe that he's going to protect you. So he might as well vote for you next week to remain as a premier. But on Saturday, when you go to the PC, he will be leading his faction to call for your removal. And this has left me with no other conclusion to say that you, sir, Mr. Premier, and your administration are no longer fit to govern Gauteng, and it's just the matter of time before the axe falls on you. Nikensile, Madam Speaker, thank you very much.
Honourable Mabulo.
You are not elected.
You are moved. Madam Speaker and Deputy Speaker, Honourable Premier, Chief Whip, and I refer to the one and only Chief Whip in the House, members of the Executive Council, honourable members, guests, the people of Gauteng Province. First, let me thank the African National Congress, the National Liberation Movement of the historically oppressed people for giving me this opportunity. Let me send my fraternal salute to all honourable members from the African National Congress who have, in a very meticulous, deeply methodical and inspiring, intellectually refreshing and profoundly articulate manner and clarity of thought, have made on the state of the province address. Well done, comrades, and thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Let me also, with really great doubts, acknowledge the hot air puffed by members of the opposition. They've really not debated the state of the province address, but we need to just acknowledge them.
Fix the potholes. Our
Now,
cars are sitting on the road.
honourable
Fix the
members,
potholes.
let me also just upfront announce that I would like to dedicate my contribution to the revolutionary life of Comrade Dan Tlome, counted amongst one of the founder members of the ANC Youth League, elected to the NEC of the ANC in 1949, trade union leader and communist that was sent to exile by SACP in 1963. Comrade Ntlome wrote a celebrated masterpiece in 1958 entitled The Africanists and the Congress. In other words, the ANC and the entire Congress movement. In this polemic, Ntlome was responding to the Africanists, that is the PAC splinter group that was attacking the principle of non-racialism and falsely attacking the ANC for being dominated and controlled by the Congress of Democrats, that is the white people. Honourable members, today, 63 years later, I find this pamphlet very relevant and applicable to the debate on SOPA. I would therefore like to apply its method, its dialectic and science, and say that in his defense of the ANC and the principle of non-racialism, Ntlome said, referring to the Africanists, and I'd like to use this to refer to the opposition benches. He said they were telling big lies and little lies about the ANC and the principle of non-racialism. In other words, the opposition, and particularly the DA, is telling big lies about SOPA. The economic freedom fighters are equally telling big lies about SOPA. The Freedom Front plus, well, little lies because of their size, very little, very little. The Africans, ICDP and IFP comrades, thank you very much for supporting SOPA. IFP and SCDP, thank you very much. Although you could have told more truth. I'm not saying your truth was a little bit of a truth, but you could have told more truth.
Liars and looters are the ANC.
Now, comrades, honourable members, Ntlome said, and this will connect with the quote that Honourable Maile made from Oliver Tambo's profound statement. Ntlome said, the whole, and I quote, the whole tone and content of the Africanists, in this case the opposition parties, however, makes it impossible to deal with their arguments calmly and dispassionately. For the thing is saturated from cover to cover with the most venomous abuse and slander. In other words, honourable members, the entire rantings of the opposition can only amount to venomous abuse and slander. And Honourable Maile correctly said the poisonous tongue. And that's what I would like to attend to.
Like you, the ANC that has
now,
abused
honourable
the
members,
entire Gauteng.
Let me deal with the big lies and start with Honourable Msimanga, who quoted Michael Jackson. But Honourable Msimanga, let me just ask you to go and read the speech which I have here of your own leader, John Steenhuisen, responding to the State of the Nation address and responding to the President when he quoted Maya Angelou. And your leader said, next time when you make quotations, make sure that they are relevant and appropriate. Yeah. You must please explain to us that quote. Why did you make that quote? Because you have not explained. You'll have had ANC comrades here, honourable members this side. Every quote they make, they explain its relevance to the day. You have not told us why that quote is relevant. Secondly, I also want to say to you that the second lie that you have told on the vaccine, and Honourable Deputy Speaker, I want to make the point that the honourable members of the opposition, particularly Msimang, have not read the State of the Province address. They have not read it, they have not gone through it, they don't understand it. Because on the vaccine, Honourable Msimang is saying there are only 2 facilities set up to deal with the vaccine. But in actual fact, the Premier has explained quite eloquently and sufficiently and I'll quote for you so that is SOPA speaking, is not me. On page 75, and of course I've I hope, so it says, let me quote, more than 150 vaccination sites have been identified at primary healthcare centers, and the vaccinators have been trained across the province. How can you miss 150 and you only remember 2?
It was written by...
I mean, really, I mean, this is very clear in the report. Did you read the report, Honourable Msimanga? Clearly, no. I don't even think you were listening, because how can you miss this point?
You must lead Gauteng.
Number two,
there's only 2.
we're debating SOPA. I've quoted SOPA. It's here.
You are not
Now,
going to
honourable
replace
members,
Monday and that PFF. Just behave. You will never fill the void left by Monday.
Can my time be protected, please?
Yes. We're listening to debate.
Okay. Can I proceed, honourable members, that just yesterday,
I don't need your comment.
yesterday, in SOPA, the Premier said, we have expanded the capacity of the public healthcare system with 4,265 new functional beds and 4992 posts, and he said another 1,425 beds are in the final stage of being made functional and operational. Now, hoping that I calculated correctly, I took these numbers and I came to the conclusion that in total, when the 1,425 beds are completed, we will have 5,690 beds in the province. And then yesterday, I called the CEO of the Steve Biko Hospital, Dr. Matebula, and I checked with her. CEO, how many beds do you have in Steve Biko? And then she told me in Steve Biko, they've got 845 beds in total. And then that means, MEC, honorable members, that with 5,690 beds, we have built almost 6 new Steve Biko's hospital, brand new in this province. We have built Steve Biko plus half within a period that is stated of almost a year in this province. Show me who else, where in the country, has achieved this capacity. And the opposition party want to distort this point, that in this province, we have built Steve Biko 6 times plus half. You can do your own mathematics. Now, honorable members, and I think as the African National Congress, we must really celebrate this major achievement of 6 Steve Biko's new, brand new in our hospital, in the total number of beds. Now, honorable members, let me also deal with yet another big lie by Honourable Msimang on TEPO 1 million that were failed the youth.
Michael Jackson.
Now, if you go to page 17 of the State of the Province address, which Msimang has not read, it says, I open quote, because you could have referred to this. And because you are not aware of it, it says, the TEPO 1 million, open quote, the TEPO 1 million program created opportunities to 94,839 young people to formal placement in jobs, internships, learnerships, and business opportunities. Did you see this?
No.
Before you make your point? Were you aware of this paragraph? I don't think so. I don't think you have read the State of the Province address. Now, honorable members, let me continue and deal with another lie from Simang. Big lie. You have made another big lie. Let me tell you which one. On lifestyle audits, you are actually claiming that the Premier is not dealing with this matter, is not actually, and this links up with what Ramulifo said about corruption and all that. Both of you have ignored both page 27 and page 28 of the State of the Province address. I'm sure you have not seen that paragraph. There is a paragraph here, if there was time, I'll read it, which talks about, it's the last paragraph before the last one on page 27. And then there's another paragraph on 28, which says, members of the Executive Council have submitted their details for the lifestyle audit that are being conducted by the State Security Agency. The outcome of the lifestyle audit will be made public. Have you read that? Are you aware of that? The State Security Agency has got its own processes, it follows its own procedures. When it is done, it will announce. Were you aware of this paragraph? So, honorable members, it is very clear that the honorable members of the DA, in particular in telling the big lie, have not read the State of the Province address. Now let me deal with yet another big lie. In the words of Dan Klome, let me deal with another big lie from Msimang, and this lie is extended to the EFF about e-tolls. Let me reaffirm the position of this province and of course of the entire alliance in the province. We remain opposed to the e-tolls. We want to reaffirm our position that the people of this province should have not been, even in the beginning, burdened with having to pay for e-tolls that are actually even serving the national economy, including linking with the international economy. And we have also said, you know what we're talking about? We have made, as a province, a comprehensive, very detailed, very clear submission to the President of the Republic, to Minister of Finance, to Minister of Transport. And in that, we have made a compelling case that the people of our province must not be burdened with e-tolls. And let me also just inform you, the provincial government, on the 14th of November 2020, we wrote to the Minister of Transport reaffirming our objection to e-tolls and also said the ARTO regulations that are actually trying to bring back this matter, we will oppose them, and that's what we will do. We remain opposed to e-tolls in this province, and it's a big lie that you are telling that the province, it's a big lie you are telling that the province does not deal with the matter of e-tolls. That is a big lie.
Since you can read, please listen. Since you can read.
Now, Honourable Mukwebo, I don't think there's anything to say there, because he also denies that Gauteng is an economic hub of this province. There's nothing to say there. Honourable Bloom, all what he said is from mass to mass, up to mass and what. So there's nothing to say. I think the old man is really tired. I think really Honourable Jack Bloom, I don't know if he has been to mass himself in the first place. Honourable Mulifu, I think Honourable Maile attended to you quite sufficiently, and I don't think I have to repeat that. Now, Honourable Dlamini, thanks, I've already acknowledged your inputs, but there's something that Honourable Dlamini said, which I think we must, and with due respect, Honourable Dlamini, you talked about there are no timelines on certain issues. There are a lot of timelines in the state. There is a timeline on every item in the State of the Province address. So this issue that there are no timelines, I think is not a complete truth. But otherwise, thank you, Honourable Dlamini. Now let's go to Honourable Alberts. Honourable Alberts, I think he suffers severe pathological disorders of the mind. He spoke about madness this, madness that. Madness this, madness that. The problem with Alberts in his pathological problems, is that he's just a narrow Afrikaner nationalist who has no link to any world except his space where he lives. He can't even understand the impact of COVID-19 on the entire global economy. He lives in a small space, limited just to his nose. That's all what we can say about him. Really, really, please take care of your pathologies, and visit the world. Check what's happening in the world. We know apartheid was damaging to yourselves. It has only made you think the world ends here in South Africa. Have a global view of the issues. Now, honorable members, let me just say, Honorable Adams, you know, I've already said you've spoken very well. But, you know, the Premier, and I saw Ghana as I said, the Premier ordered the House, he directed the House to stand up, to rise in memory of all the frontline workers, health workers in particular, and message of solidarity to all people who died because of COVID-19. I just think a man of good standing like yourself could have really started with what the Premier said. Because you and Ghana are making it like you are the first people to say this. It is in the speech. You could have connected with it, but I'm still saying you spoke well. All I'm saying is you could have connected with the speech. Now, in conclusion, honorable members, considering that my time was tempered with, let me go to our leader, Ntome, what he said. And this connects with what Honorable Maile also said. He said, open quote, and referring to the opposition yourselves, they seem to have studied Hitler's dictum that no matter how far-fetched the lie you tell, the bigger the lie said, the better. If only you repeat it loud enough and often enough, people will begin to accept it for the truth. Madam's close quote. Madam Deputy Speaker, honorable members, I want to say, Dento makes them exist.
There are more leaders than
I want to say to you, honorable members, the House, the opposition benches have not debated nor objected to the State of the Province address. All what they attempted to do was to launch an attack on the Premier, use the House as a prelude to launch your attack for the motion. And as Honorable Maile correctly said, that motion is going to fail. And let me say to you, you are going to proceed in the State of the Motion address with even more big lies, little and big. That's all what you'll be doing. But otherwise today, honorable members, we can, when we finish, we can sit knowing that our neo-fascists here, who stormed the House with a big bag of lies, have not objected to the State of the Province address, and therefore, ANC lives, ANC leads. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable MC. Secretary, please read out the order. Secretary, please read out the next order.
Premier's reply to the debate on the State of the Province address.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I know what's going on in your mind. You are very afraid. You are very afraid. Madam Deputy Speaker, thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Thank you very much. I want to start, Madam Deputy Speaker, by thanking all the members who participated in the debate of the State of the Province address, which we delivered on Tuesday. All members of the House who participated, I thank you for your contributions. I certainly hope that you were aware that you were talking to the people of the province. If you were not aware that you were talking to the people of the province, and some of you looked like you're not aware, I think it's a terrible mistake that you are here.
I thank you because, firstly, the State of the Province address is a very, very important occasion to report to the people of our province. And I hope the State of the City address is a very important occasion for municipalities to report to the residents in their municipalities. The State of the Nation address is even more important than the provinces and the municipalities, because it sums up where our nation is, and most importantly, identifies what needs to be done to address the principal concerns of the people. So you have made significant contributions covering a whole range of thematic areas concerning the people of our province. And I must say, those who come from the ANC, there are also contributions from the opposition about what they want to say about the ANC. You heard them. They are not talking to. There's a lot of interest by particularly the DA about what is happening in the ANC and what must happen in the ANC. I don't know if the things they were talking about what must happen in the ANC and what's happening in the ANC, let alone the fact that they do not understand what's happening in the ANC. I don't know if they understand that we are not interested in what is happening in the DA. We as the ANC are only interested in what is happening on issues affecting the people of Gauteng. As Bishop, the Honourable Adams have said, I'm not sure if in the House we must still call you Bishop, Bishop, but you remain Bishop, as you said. But I want to reiterate that as the Premier of Gauteng, we are not interested in what is happening in the DA. There's lots of shenanigans happening in the Democratic Alliance at a national level and in this province. But that is your mess. Honourable Msimang, you can stand up here in front, appearing like you are together. But that is your mess. Sort out that mess. Honourable Makashule, your life is on the ledge there. You can try to make them happy and think they'll forgive you, those who are trying to get rid of you. That's your mess. It has nothing to do with what's affecting the people of our province. Your backs are on the hall there in the DA. We are not interested. You have just survived, Msimang, on the back of selling your other comrades. We are not interested in that. That's the mess you are in. You must clean it up yourself. You must clean it up yourself. What are we interested in, honourable members? What are we interested in? We are interested in one thing and one thing only. And that is, what is the best plan to move Gauteng forward post the COVID-19 pandemic? I like, amongst the responses I will give, I like what Bishop was saying. Let's take that to heart. Members of the Executive Council, Bishop Adams, the Honourable Member, says that COVID-19 has shown that government can do certain things fast. COVID-19, he says so. He says there are certain things we were able to do, and he says he agrees with the assessment in the State of the Province address that we can solve the economic problems of our people faster. We can intervene in the economy to address the problems that you are dealing with, Honourable Diale. Honourable Adams says you have demonstrated that you can sort these things with emergency. So he says to us that the state of emergency of COVID, Chief Whip, says we mustn't, even if COVID goes, let's govern in the state of emergency. Let's respond to the problems of women, the problems of crime, the problems of poverty, the problems of young people with emergency, the housing problems, issues of healthcare with emergency. Honourable Adams, I can agree with you more on that. That we can address these problems and ensure that those aspects that we have demonstrated, as outlined in the State of the Province Address, that we can do certain things well, that we must continue with doing those things well and deal with the problems that have arisen, that the State of the Province Address deals with extensively about what is it we are going to. So I can agree with you more, Honourable Adams, that we must govern with urgency, and we must govern in the state, in the mode of an emergency situation, even when there is no more COVID-19. And on that note, therefore, I want to share with you some data that we didn't share with you. Even if this, because there are people who respect evidence, but there are people whose ideology makes it difficult for them to see. It's like wearing spectacles. Wearing spectacles that are colored in a manner that you will not see. And what is the fact? The fact is, Gauteng Province has done certain things during COVID-19 so well. I want to add the data that I didn't share with you during the State of the Province Address. As we speak now, the province with the highest, so between, let's first say, between March 2020 and the 24th of February 2021, this province had the highest infection rate. In other words, the number of cumulative cases in the Republic. This is not an achievement, but I want to measure what I'm going to say against the fact that Gauteng had the highest number of infections cumulatively. So you know we are over 400 now. Yesterday we were at 402,000 infections, but measure the fact that we had the highest infection rate with the following achievements. Firstly, we have the highest recovery rate of 97% together with Mpumalanga. As I speak now, the recovery rate of Gauteng is, together with Mpumalanga, we have the highest recovery rate compared to the country's 93% average recovery rate. We are amongst the 4 provinces that have the lowest mortality rate. Think of it this way. We have had the highest number of cases of COVID-19, but we have a fatality rate of 2.4%. I said these are people. On Tuesday, I said these are still people. But let me share with you what the fatality rate of the rest of the country is like. So our fatality rate, the case fatality rate is the lowest together with Northern Cape and Northwest Province. It's the lowest. It's at 2.4% compared to the following case fatality rates. So KwaZulu-Natal is at 2.9%. Limpopo Province is at 3%. Free State Province is at 3.9%. Western Cape is at 4%, and Eastern Cape is at 5.8%. What does this mean? Simple interpretation, and we must interpret things, honourable members. For some of our counterparts, our colleagues here who would not read this thing, when your case fatality rate is low, it means more people's lives have been saved, or more lives have been saved. That's what it means, Bishop. When your case fatality rate is as low as it is with a province that has the largest number of infections, which has got the largest population, which has so many people admitted in hospital, it means more lives have been saved. I know this is not of interest to the Democratic Alliance. It's not. So pretensions that all they were saying is about saving lives, at this point, it's not of interest to them. The truth is not of interest to them. The truth that more lives have been saved here with the largest infection rate, the largest population. We have saved more lives. Our case fatality rate is as low as Northern Cape has got just over 1 million people. And then Northwest, our case fatality rate is as low, close to those provinces. It's not of interest. What is of interest to the DA is what is happening in the ANC, including their own fundamental misunderstanding of what is happening in the... They think it will cure their disease. And we know what that disease is. So you're not interested in the truth. And it may be difficult, honorable members, to ask people, if you ask a thief that they mustn't steal because it is Sunday. So they must come to church on Sunday and not steal. Stop thieving because it is Sunday. It's very difficult. So you can't ask the opposition to stop politicking and focus on the real issues of building the economy and of saving life. It's like asking a thief that they must just be good on Sunday. Simply because it's Sunday, they must be good. It's a pandemic now. To ask the opposition to focus on the real, there's a pandemic of our economy. What did the opposition say? Honourable Diale, what did the DA say about the plan for Gauteng on the economy? What did they say? Have they ever tabled an alternative plan on what to do in Gauteng? To ask them to put a plan here is like asking a thief to just go to church on Sunday and stop thieving. It's their fundamental mode of existence. This is the fundamental mode of existence is to look at the ANC. The EFF is not different. The EFF cannot exist and pronounce on anything in South Africa without making reference to the ANC. They can't talk to the people of South Africa about the EFF and about the problems and what the EFF is going to do. Every time they open their mouth, the first thing to start with is what is happening in the ANC. If the ANC was to go to Mars, if one morning we were just to go to Mars and leave Gauteng and leave South Africa, what will they say? What do you think they will say when they talk about the problems of the people? Principally, Honourable Msimang, the Democratic Alliance agenda for South Africa and for Gauteng is let the ANC people fight. That is the principal agenda. Because there is unity in the DA, fundamentally. I'm looking at you, Ghana. There's unity in the DA. There's peace. There's focus on the problems of the people in the DA. And every time you listen to the leader of the Democratic Alliance speaking in National Parliament, is to try and enter the politics of the ANC, of which he understands very little. What do? They urge the president. So they want to play that politics here. Come, president, fight with Makashule. That's their principal mode of politics. That's very cheap, because the problems of the people are not going to be solved by focusing on inner party strife, internal party dynamics. Some some pretensions that you come here and you are speaking with one voice when the truth is known. You come here to pretend you are speaking with one voice when the truth is known. So honorable members, so the work we did, I want to thank the MEC for Health. I didn't do so on Tuesday. The MEC for Health, Dr. Makhura, came in the midst of a storm. And she went to the ground. She works very quietly. She doesn't make noise. She went to the ground. She went to the hospitals. She doesn't bring the media with. She doesn't do what Jack Bloom does. She goes to talk to the people. She goes to talk to the nurses where the problem is. And sometimes I don't even know that she is in a particular place where there's a problem. I get feedback from ordinary people. The MEC was here and she talked with us and then she solved a problem. She doesn't post in WhatsApp or on Twitter what she's going to do as long as the problem is solved. We must thank you, MEC. You are leading a tough department. And you have people in the opposition who celebrate when a member of the Executive Council falls. They celebrate. And they don't stop. They pray. They pray like scavengers that this government must fall. Not that the people of Gauteng must be served. That's not in their interest. It's not in their mode of existence. What is your name, honorable member? You have just arrived. Yeah, please sit down. You have just arrived. You have just arrived. You know? Yeah. Yeah. It's fundamental. It's fundamental that. So we need more MECs like you. But the work is still a lot. The road ahead is still very, very far. We have a long way to go. We have a long way to go. The battle against COVID is raging. And I'm glad that, MEC Maile, you dealt with these pretensions and double standards of the DA very effectively. When we go to the ANC, I'm going to give you an award there in the ANC. Very effectively. Exposing the double standards of the Democratic Alliance is important for the people of our. You have the leader of the DA here who wants to pretend to the people of Gauteng that he can run anything close to a province when he messed up a municipality. He messed it up. He messed it up in the shortest space of time because he thinks the best people to employ are bodybuilders in the office of the mayor. He thinks the best people to employ are bodybuilders. So thank you so much. So MEC Maile, exposing the failures, because the ANC is not holy. The ANC talks about its own weaknesses openly. We talk about and when the ANC gets something wrong, we don't hide it from the people of South Africa. We tell the truth. We tell no lies to the people of South Africa. When something goes wrong in the ANC, we say it ourselves. What does the DA do? What does the Democratic Alliance do? They pretend to the people of South Africa that they uphold the highest standards, ethical standards. They pretend that they are consistent, they appoint the most competent people. In the DA pretends that they honor the reports of the Auditor General. They pretend. They want the people of South Africa to think they respect Chapter 9 institutions. They pretend that they don't interfere in local government. We know they do so in the Western Cape. They think they can tell these lies and that the people will not know about them. These are just double standards, honorable members. And lies have short legs. They will soon be known. What is your name, madam? What is your name?
Member Engelbrecht, sit down. Sit down, Member Engelbrecht. Sit down.
So honorable members, let us focus on COVID-19, and we will focus on COVID-19. There is nothing that, listening to what our colleagues are saying in the House, I respect the contributions of those who truly want us to solve the problem with impatience. I listen to you, Honourable Dlamini. You are not directly here in the House. With a great deal of impatience, we must pay attention to the issues. You listen to the MECs next week. The MECs are going to give more details on what we are going to do this year. Honourable Dlamini says the targets are not clear. That's not the intention of the State of the Province address. We welcome you. We welcome the voices in the opposition that are not a preoccupation with the ANC and with the demise of the ANC. Those whose preoccupation is with the demise of the ANC, I think they are going to be disappointed for a long time to see the ANC around. And the ANC will solve its own problems. It will cleanse itself. The ANC will cleanse itself. Because the ANC government, when there are problems, the ANC government talks about those problems, and when there are failures, we talk about them without any equivocation. I don't want to talk about the man from Mars. You know, if there's something that principally unites for a very short time, unites people in the DA, it's two things. The one is the inherent prayer that the ANC is incompetent and corrupt. It's an inherent prayer. But I know some of them will call me, some of these guys who are pretending that they are together. They are sitting here. Some of them are going to be calling me when they are in trouble to say they are getting rid of us in the DA. We want to play a role in building this country. They are getting rid of us in the DA. No, we don't want more problems. We don't want spineless people. And we don't want people who cannot tell the truth when we get things wrong, guys. In the ANC, we want honest people. When I get it wrong, I want any ANC members to tell me that you are wrong. So, you have the courage. So you have the courage. You have the courage. Honorable members, don't be sidetracked, please. No, don't be sidetracked by the thief who goes to church on Sunday. Because our task is more difficult. No, leave Shackleton alone. Leave him alone. He wants to go to Mamelodi. So I want to conclude by saying, Honourable Msimang, if I take out DA politics and the pretenses, if I take that out, and I don't know if one can succeed, if I take out all the other political pretensions, and I don't know if I'll succeed. As I say, it's as difficult as asking a thief to stop thieving on Sunday. If I take out all you can make a contribution to helping us. But I think the problem is that you are trying to please people there. You are trying to please people there. And I want to say the same with some of my friends, black and white in the DA, that we are trying to please a cause that has run its course. Your party has entered a new course. There's no place for you there. If you really want party politicking, if you want it from me, I'm saying to you, your party has run its course and there's no place for you there. But you can make a contribution. Gan, I have listened to you many times, Honourable Gan. Sometimes I thought you wasted your years of going to university at Tefluop. I've listened to you trying to talk about the economy or human settlement. There's never a clear plan. What is the DA teaching you about economic policy? You know what that means? You know what it means, honorable members? He breaks my heart. I'm mourning for him. Honorable Ramlifo, because he does so much work and elsewhere appreciates the progress Gauteng is making on education, elsewhere. But when he comes here, he must please some of his masters. I'm saying his masters. And be seen to be criticizing the ANC. Because if you don't criticize the ANC, you are not good enough. Honorable Shackleton, I wish what you were saying about going to Mamelodi to solve crime was true. And that I wish what you were saying was truly about focusing on crime. You are new, I'll give you a benefit of doubt. You are new, but I think the DA may push you into a point where working with us to solve the crime problem in Mamelodi may not be in their interest. It is in the interest of the people of Mamelodi, but you being seen to be working with us, with MEC Mazibuko, to solve the crime problem may not be in the interest of the DA. Make a choice, Honorable Shackleton. Who do you want to please? Do you want to please the DA or you want to solve the problems of the people of Mamelodi? Make a choice. It is time. There comes a time in the life of a man or a woman where they must make a choice. And you must make a choice. And there are many who are sitting here looking down in the DA. You have to make a choice, whether you want to build Gauteng or you want to be involved in pretentious politics. Every time you speak here, let me talk about the man from Mars. The man from Mars talks a lot about health. The man from Mars talks a lot about health. There are occasions that I believed that the man from Mars really wants to solve health problems. But when there is something achieved, he is so unhappy. He is pathologically unhappy to a point where the internet cannot work. And when we do something right, ensure the fatality rate is low, he is pathologically unhappy. He celebrates the fact that when there's a health crisis, you will see him running around like someone who has just been prayed for in a coffin and woken up, resurrected. When there is a problem in health, it's like Bloom has been resurrected from a coffin. When there's progress, you will never hear Jack Bloom on any matter of progress in health. Well, to ask him to stop that, he's been in this house for more than 25 years. To ask him to stop that is like asking a thief to stop thieving on a Sunday, because Sunday is the day of prayer, or on Sabbath, on Saturday, because it's Sunday that the thief would have a good heart on the day of prayer, or on Friday, he will not go to mosque. And these thieves are usually men, I must say. I will never say he or she. I'll say he. So Honourable Bloom is pathologically happy when there's crisis and problems in health. When people die, when something breaks, his pathology, his satisfaction level rises with problems in healthcare, with the problems that the people have. His satisfaction, he satisfies his almost satanic, almost like sucking blood. He's satanic. He gets satisfied when there are problems of healthcare. If he came from my village, he would be in danger. If he came from your village, Honourable Ghana, they would be chasing him around saying, "Kemulo imutona man." So, on this side of the House, Honourable Chief Whip, thank you for continuing to support us. We remain unshaken. You continue to give direction. Honourable Maile, you dealt with these pretensions extremely well. My little sister, little is not always little. You are focused on the economy. You principally got us to focus on what the people of this province need. Kulube, your difficulty is that you rejoice in undressing people. You rejoice in politically and ideologically undressing people. I hope it is not pathological. It shouldn't be pathological in that case. So, honourable members, we are ready. We have one plan. We have tabled our plan here. I know that we had other members who couldn't be joined by Honourable Lasindwa, but she was going to be speaking extensively on the economy. I expect nothing from you, colleagues. I expect nothing. And let me talk to you also as the leader of the ANC. I expect nothing from you. I expect nothing less from you, nothing less. We are not doing work. We will hear criticism from our opponents. We must always listen to them. Criticism is good. Criticism strengthens us. It's like a storm. Not having criticism, not being criticized, it means like we are not doing something right. The day that they will be quiet, the day the DA and the EFF will be quiet, I will resign. Remember they say I must resign? Yeah, the day, if they want me to resign, let them just keep quiet, I will resign. I will be so shocked and so shaken that there's something wrong I am doing, something fundamentally wrong I'm doing, that is keeping the people whose principal preoccupation and principal mode of politics is what is happening in the ANC, not what should be happening in the lives of ordinary people. So we remain unshaken. Let's continue to implement. We have a plan. Bishop, we are going to work in an emergency like we have never worked before. Whether COVID will be gone or not, this emergency approach, and I mean emergency approach, the ability of government to make quick decisions. These projects about employment are going to happen. These empowerment projects are going to happen. Improving educational and health outcomes will happen. The fight against crime will happen in this province. The fight against poverty and hunger will continue to happen. We will roll back. We will bring back those who have been hardest hit in various sectors of our economy, who have been hardest hit by COVID-19, but we won't do this alone. We must do this with the people of our province. One thing COVID teaches us is that when you are not with the people, and when the people are not with you, they can be misled by fake news to reject vaccines. They can be misled by conspiracy theories. They can be misled by the people who are in a pathological mode of politics, whose principal preoccupation is what is happening in the ANC. I'm sure when they dream about the ANC. I have no doubt. So they have misread the ANC so badly that they have brought a motion of no confidence against me. And they think we understand the ANC so well, the ANC is going to vote with us. I think, and I know that they don't believe this, but but let's work for the people of our province. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, honourable members. Thank you, honourable members. This concludes the business of the day. The next sitting will be on the 2nd of March on Tuesday. And let me continue to request programming committee members to remain those who are physically here. Those who are connected virtually, can they not disconnect? Thank you.